Chapter 3550. Lin Feng looked at Nalan Monley with a smile that was not a smile. She was glaring at him with gritted teeth. Lin Feng found that it was quite interesting to tease this woman. Peach blossom dead. Peach blossom dead. Taoist Wu Liang muttered in a low voice. This damn Taoist had always been a shrewd character. He had more or less guessed the relationship between Lin Feng and Nalan Monley. Little Lily, the past has become a beautiful memory. Let this beautiful memory be branded in our hearts forever, Lin Feng said. After hearing Lin Feng's words, Nalan Monley suddenly had the urge to slap Lin Feng to death. What beautiful memory! How could there be a beautiful memory? Thinking of what happened at that time, Nalan Monley still had the urge to tear Lin Feng into pieces, even if that incident had passed for a long time. But Nalan Monley still couldn't forget the scenes at that time. She didn't know how many nights Nalan Monley would dream of the scene at that time. The past was unbearable to look back on, but she had always remembered it in her heart, and she often thought about it. This made Nalan Monley feel like she was going crazy. In her heart, Lin Feng was a shameless person, a scum among men, and an unforgivable thief. It was just that Nalan Monley forgot that she had joined forces with young Master Nye and others to deal with Lin Feng. As the saying goes, karma is not good. If there was no incident at that time, the things that happened later would naturally not have happened. Chop him up for me, Nalan Monley said fiercely. She knew that she was no match for Lin Feng with her own strength, so she wanted everyone to attack together. There were many pursuers of Nalan Monley among the cultivators around her. Now that they heard the goddess's words, they naturally didn't hesitate. They wanted to rush up and chop Lin Feng up. Among these people, the blue-clothed young master and the cyan-clothed young master were the most active. These two people's cultivation bases were much higher than the rest of the people. Therefore, they were also in the lead in the competition. They felt that if they dealt with Lin Feng, they might be able to show their faces in front of Nalan Monley. At that time, it was very likely that they would get the beauty. The more they thought about it, the more excited they became. But at this moment, a female cultivator in the crowd said, Lin Feng. He is Lin Feng. I recognize him. He's Lin Feng from the continent of the 9 provinces. What? He's Lin Feng of the 9 provinces? When the people who were originally rushing towards Lin Feng heard the female cultivator's words, they all changed their minds. All of them stopped in their tracks, and their faces began to darken. The 10,000 clans hated Lin Feng. They wanted to cut Lin's 1,000 pieces into pieces. But Lin Feng's cultivation was too powerful. It wasn't something that just anyone could contend against. Back in 9 regions, Lin Feng had killed several Emperor Realm experts of the 10,000 races. Now, so many years had passed. Lin Feng's cultivation must be even more terrifying. Although these cultivators were all geniuses among the younger generation of the 10,000 races, the strongest blue-clothed young master and the cyan-clothed young master had only just entered the Emperor Realm. Many years ago, Lin Feng was able to kill Emperor Realm experts, so they naturally didn't dare to fight with Lin Feng. Therefore, when these people heard that the person in front of them was Lin Feng, their expressions became extremely interesting. Although they were arrogant, but they also knew their own limits. They knew what kind of person they couldn't afford to offend. Now, even if these people were given 10 guts, they wouldn't dare to continue attacking Lin Feng. Many people were even cursing Nalan Monley in their hearts. How could she cheat them like this? Although these people were pursuing Nalan Monley, but human nature was selfish. There was a saying that husband and wife were birds in the same forest, but when disaster struck, they flew separately. Moreover, they weren't even husband and wife with Nalan Monley. This concerned their lives. They were tricked by Nalan Monley into attacking Lin Feng. If someone hadn't recognized Lin Feng's identity, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Brother Lin, this is all a misunderstanding, someone said with a sad face and looked at Lin Feng with an apologetic smile. He hoped that he could get Lin Feng's forgiveness. Get lost. Lin Feng spat out 3 words coldly. The group of people didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly left. Seeing so many people scared away by Lin Feng, Nalan Monley was so angry that her face turned ashen. Her chest rose and fell, which was very beautiful. One had to say that Nalan Monley was indeed a woman with capital. Her figure, skin, and face were all 1 in 1,000,000. It seems that your flower protectors are a bunch of useless guys. When you really need them, you find that they can't be counted on, Lin Feng said with a smile. Nailin Monli gritted her teeth and said, "Just you wait. The previous matter won't end like this." Lin Feng said indifferently, "Do you believe that I won't catch you right now and directly do it 100 times? 100 times." When he heard Lin Feng's words, he felt like a hooligan. Nailin Monli suddenly felt her body go soft. She tried to calm herself down. After fiercely glaring at Lin Feng, she quickly rushed away. Taoist Wu Liang said, "Why did you let this little girl run away? Isn't she an old flame? Didn't you want to do it 100 times? Since a man said it, he should take action. But don't worry, when the time comes, this Taoist will hide far away and definitely won't disturb you." "I couldn't tell that you were also a playboy Taoist." Lin Feng curled his lips. He continued to walk upwards. Nailin Monli's matter was just a small interlude. It was like a seasoning in life. When it was over, it was over. Lin Feng would not spend too much energy on this kind of thing. Along the way, he still saw many cultivators breaking the restrictions of those temples, palaces, and cave dwellings. Many people were counterattacked by the restrictions and eventually died. There were still many people fighting over some treasures. At this time, because of the terrifying pressure of Mount Pantheon, everyone's Fali was very suppressed. So it was very difficult to circulate Fali. Therefore, in the battle that broke out at this time, the cultivators with strong physical bodies or who had cultivated many martial arts moves were more advantageous. Not long after, the dragon rabbit standing on Lin Feng's shoulder let out a squeaking sound. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang could not help but reveal a look of joy. The dragon rabbit must have found some treasure, which was why it let out such an excited cry. Whoosh! The little guy directly rushed out and quickly ran forward. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang followed closely behind. In the end, the dragon rabbit brought Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang to a palace about 3,000 meters above the Mount Pantheon. In front of the palace stood a huge statue of a god. The statue was a 3-headed, 6-armed god-fiend. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were very shocked. Could it be that this palace in front of them, was it built by this 3-headed, 6-armed god-fiend in the past? Chapter 35:51. At this moment, many cultivators were standing in front of the palace. They were all looking at the palace. The palace was very large, taking up an area of several hundred acres. However, the palace was surrounded by restrictions, so they couldn't enter it. Thus, they had to wait patiently. There were many cultivators gathered in front of each palace. This was because there were too many cultivators entering Mount Pantheon. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang stood in the distance and watched. There was no need to be the first to stand out. A cultivator stepped out, wanting to break the restrictions around the palace. "It's someone from the formation spirit race," a cultivator exclaimed, recognizing the cultivator who wanted to break the formation. In the vast starry sky world, there were so many different races that it was as if there were countless of them. There were a few special races that possessed some unimaginable abilities. Those few special races all had powerful array formations. They seemed to have an innate talent for all kinds of formations that others could not understand. And this talent, it allowed them to surpass the cultivators of other races in terms of understanding and cultivation of formations. This was an innate advantage of their race, an ability that others couldn't even be envious of. This person is Wang Xianji of the formation spirit race, right? I've heard of this person before. His attainments in formations are extremely profound. It's said that even many of the older experts of the formation spirit race admit defeat. Another cultivator continued, "That's right. It's Wang Xianji. If this person were to break the formation, it is indeed possible to break the formation surrounding this palace." Another cultivator said, "The formation spirit race?" Lin Feng couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. This race's talent was quite shocking. Lin Feng couldn't help but look at Wang Xianji. He also wanted to see if Wang Xianji could break the palace's restrictions. Wang Xianji arrived in front of the palace and flicked his finger. Lines of formation runes flew out. Those runes interweaved together, forming a dense net. It was like a huge fishing net. Wang Xianji directly used it. A huge array net enveloped the entire hall. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng couldn't help but show a thoughtful expression. What kind of method was this? Lin Feng had never seen such a method before. Taoist Wu Liang said, I heard that the spiritual formation race has the True Spirit 8 scrolls. The True Spirit 8 scrolls contain many secret techniques, and they're incomparably wondrous. Lin Feng said, could it be that Wang Xinji is using some of the techniques recorded in the True Spirit 8 scrolls? Immeasurable Taoist nodded and said, it's very possible. Buzz. Suddenly, violent fluctuations spread out. The formation pattern net formed by Wang Xinji directly merged with the restriction that enveloped the entire palace. Kacha-kacha sounds could be heard. The array that enveloped the entire palace began to shatter. Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. Wang Xinji's methods were truly extraordinary. The method he used just now was actually able to break the restriction that enveloped the palace. An hour later, the restriction that enveloped the palace was completely destroyed. Many people impatiently rushed forward and pushed open the door of the palace. Then, they rushed into the palace. There was a rotten smell coming out of the palace. Perhaps it was because no one had entered this place for too long. Thus, a lot of dust had accumulated in this place. Because this palace was extremely large, it was divided into layers and layers. There was a shrine in the first hall, and on top of the shrine was the three-headed, six-armed god devil. Some cultivators rushed towards the shrine. They shattered the statue of the three-headed, six-armed god devil. Then, they even shattered the shrine. But they still couldn't find anything. There was nothing in the first palace. Thus, many cultivators rushed towards the depths. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang also rushed towards the depths. Originally, they wanted the dragon rabbit to sense where the treasure was. But after entering the palace, the dragon rabbit was unable to sense the treasure. It seemed to have a special power. It isolated the aura of the treasure, so the dragon rabbit was unable to sense the treasure. Of course, it could also be because of other reasons. After crossing the first palace, they entered a long corridor. Messy footsteps could be heard from the corridor. The corridor had many branches. Every time they walked a certain distance, a branch would appear. And where did the new branch lead to? Lin Feng didn't know either. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang chose a direction and walked down. Not long after, Lin Feng and the others entered the second palace. This palace looked extremely eerie and terrifying. There were many bones on the ground. There seemed to have been a great battle here in the past. That is, suddenly. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly focused. There were three things on an offering table in the depths of the palace. A jade token, a scroll, a brocade box. Many cultivators rushed over. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were no exception. Bang, bang, bang. One cultivator after another was sent flying by Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. They rushed to the front of the offering table and directly grabbed the treasures on the table. Apart from them, another cultivator arrived at this time. This cultivator was surrounded by endless divine light. He was very young, but he was incomparably tyrannical. He also reached for a treasure. In the end, Lin Feng obtained the jade token. Taoist Wu Liang obtained the scroll. As for the young cultivator shrouded in divine light, he obtained the brocade box. The three of you are courting death. At this time, the surrounding cultivators' eyes were filled with killing intent. They wanted to kill Lin Feng and the other two. Everyone, don't attack the cultivator surrounded by divine light. He is one of the two supreme prodigies of the ancient god clan, evil of the divine path. Some cultivators recognized the young cultivator surrounded by endless divine light and couldn't help but cry out in horror. What? He is evil of the divine path? Many people cried out in alarm. Their eyes were filled with horror. Obviously, this name had caused a great shock to them. Many people were aghast. A prodigy of the ancient god clan? Is his aura so familiar? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter in his mind. Since this person was called evil of the divine path, he should be a cultivator of the same generation as Shen Daotian. In the ancient god clan, he belonged to the younger generation. But obviously, this cultivator was many times stronger than Shen Daotian. Give it to me. Evil of the divine path looked indifferently at Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. Chapter 3552. Many people smiled bitterly when they saw Evil God asking for the two items from Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang. Many cultivators knew Evil God's identity, so they didn't dare to have any ideas about him. However, these cultivators still had their eyes on Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang. They wanted to attack Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang. But now, Evil God also had his eyes on the items that Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang had obtained. This made the other cultivators very depressed, because they knew they definitely had no hope of obtaining the two treasures that Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang had just obtained. Taoist Wu Yang curled his lips and said, "Who do you think you are? We'll give it to you just because you want it?" Evil God's eyes suddenly turned cold. He glanced sideways at Taoist Wu Yang and said indifferently, "Lowly thing, do you know that you don't even have the right to talk to me normally? Self-righteous. Do you really think you can look down on others just because you have some strength? Don't you know that the ancient god clans suffered heavy losses in the 9 states? In the end, they were beaten to a pulp by the cultivators of the 9 states human race and had to kneel and beg for mercy." Lin Feng mocked. In the past, the Battle of the 9 states was a huge blow to the myriad races. It wasn't just because the cultivator army of the myriad races that invaded the 9 states was almost completely wiped out. It wasn't just because of the death of the 5 emperor-level ancestors. The biggest blow was actually a psychological one. The cultivators of the myriad races joined forces with some extraterritorial forces and cultivators from several great worlds to deal with the declining 9 states. In the end, they suffered a crushing defeat. This was simply a great humiliation to the myriad races. Many people couldn't accept it at all, especially the royal family of the myriad races. They viewed the Battle of the 9 states as a stain in their lives. Now that Lin Feng mentioned the 9 states in front of Evil God's expression instantly became extremely gloomy. His gaze towards Lin Feng was also filled with dense killing intent. "Do you know that you've already committed a taboo?" Evil God looked indifferently at Lin Feng, a condescending gaze. His eyes flickered with killing intent. He was like an immortal fiend god. His body was surrounded by ripples of magic power. This person was indeed terrifying. He was actually able to circulate his magic power in this place. It was truly inconceivable. A terrifying aura spread out. It directly enveloped Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist. From the beginning to the end, he did not put Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang in his eyes. In the eyes of evil divinity, killing Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist was simply too easy. The matters of the 9 prefectures are taboo to the myriad races. That brat mentioned the matters of the 9 prefectures in front of the evil Tao divinity, which has completely infuriated the evil Tao divinity. That brat is probably dead for sure. 5,732 years ago, 4,000 years ago, when he had just broken through to the Great Emperor realm, he had jumped 2 big realms and defeated a monarch realm expert. Now that 4,000 years have passed, no one knows how strong Divinity Xie has become. Yes, Divinity Xie is one of the supreme geniuses of the myriad races, an existence that many old antiques fear. That brat and that Taoist priest Cultivation is also extremely extraordinary, but compared to Divinity Xie, there is still a huge gap. They are not people of the same world at all. Many cultivators could not help but discuss spiritedly. Obviously, they were not optimistic about Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist. Divinity Xie's cultivation was simply too strong. "Do you really think we are afraid of you?" The immeasurable Taoist sneered. He was not affected by the powerful aura emitted from Divinity Xie's body. There are too many people who think they are infallible, especially among the myriad races. Some people are very arrogant and think that they are invincible, but when they really fight, they know how much they are worth. The difference is too great. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he continued to mock. Divinity Xie was powerful. Although he could circulate his magic power, Lin Feng's methods were also very powerful. He believed that with the 6-fold dragon elephant arm, he could break through all techniques with brute force. He was not afraid of this person at all. "Do you know? For lowly human cultivators like you, this young master can't be bothered to kill you, because that would dirty my hands. But today, this young master will make an exception and take the lives of the 2 of you." Divinity Xie sneered. A pair of cold eyes looked at Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist. His eyes revealed naked contempt and disdain. Anyone could see it. Divinity Xia's contempt and disdain for Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist. It was emitted from his bones. Let's fight. I want to see who will be the final victor. Lin Feng sneered. Boom. As his voice fell, a powerful aura emitted from Lin Feng's body. The immeasurable Taoist was also preparing to attack. Although they could not circulate their magic power now, for experts of their level, it was not difficult to mobilize their aura to suppress the other party. It looked like the two sides were about to fight. Just at this moment, a sharp, ear-piercing scream suddenly came from above. Ah! Many people let out shrill screams. At the top of the palace, huge bats were hanging upside down from the ceiling. Each bat was 3 to 4 meters long. Those bats were blood-red in color, but they had human faces. When he saw those huge bats, Lin Feng could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Those bats were the rumored human-faced vampire bats. This was an extremely terrifying type of bat that could vibrate with a terrifying sound wave attack that could affect the soul of a cultivator. Their claws were extremely sharp. They could easily pierce through a cultivator's skull. Whoosh! Whoosh! The swarms of human-faced vampire bats spread their wings. Then they quickly charged towards the cultivators below. Crack, crack. The sharp claws of those vampire bats directly pierced through the heads of the cultivators. I'll spare your worthless lives today, but if I see you two again in the future, I'll definitely kill you. Divinity Xia looked at Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist with an indifferent expression. Then he quickly rushed outside. It's not certain who will be the one to kill who. Lin Feng retaliated, not to be outdone. 100-step divine fist. Then, he used his martial arts technique. His 100-step divine fist could form a powerful fist shadow with each punch. This was the manifestation of the martial arts technique after it was cultivated to the pinnacle. There was no need to use magic power at all. Bang, bang, bang. A series of violent collisions were heard. The human-faced vampire bats were directly sent flying. The immeasurable Taoist also sent the human-faced vampire bats that surrounded him flying. The two of them quickly rushed outside. The entire palace was filled with vampire bats. A large number of cultivators were killed by those human-faced vampire bats. Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist finally rushed out. In the end, not many cultivators rushed out. Most of them died in the palace. We can't stay here for long. Let's go. Chapter 35-53. It's a martial talisman. When Lin Feng inspected the talisman with his godly awareness, he was astonished. The jade token was a martial talisman. It was called a mysterious martial talisman. It was extremely mysterious, and it was surrounded by strands of Tao source energy. What? It's a martial talisman? He's so lucky? Wuliang Taoist exclaimed. He looked at the martial talisman in Lin Feng's hand, his eyes shining. The martial talisman might not be so useful to other races, but to human cultivators, the martial talisman could be very useful. Lin Feng's devouring martial spirit had evolved from 1 devouring black hole to 6 devouring black holes. It had evolved because it had devoured the martial talisman's energy. In theory, Lin Feng's devouring martial spirit could still evolve. But it was not realistic to evolve the devouring martial spirit by relying on his own means. He still needed to rely on some external forces. The martial talisman. It was something Lin Feng could rely on. Lin Feng could not help but smile. Not bad, not bad. The harvest this time is quite good. He put the martial talisman away. It was one of the 3 martial talismans. He needed to gather the 3 split martial talismans. Only then could he combine the 2 martial talismans into one. Only then could the martial talisman be useful to his martial spirit. Lin Feng and Wuliang Taoist explored a few more palaces, temples, and caves, but they did not find any treasures that satisfied them. Night fell. The mountain of gods turned pitch black. Rumble, rumble. The mountain of gods started to shake violently. What's going on? Many people were shocked. They did not know what was going on. Why was the mountain of gods shaking violently? What's that? Someone pointed up. About 70 to 80,000 meters high, a huge shadow appeared in everyone's sight. It was unknown what kind of creature had manifested that huge shadow. Roar. The huge shadow let out an earth-shattering roar. Next, at a height of 70 to 80,000 meters, a huge demonic gate appeared. He didn't know where the demon gate was connected to. He didn't even know how the demon gate had appeared. Kacha, 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 sounds of intense friction could be heard. Next, rumble. Loud rumbling noises could not help but be heard. The demon gate. It was actually gradually opening. After seeing this scene, Yizichin was shocked. Everyone couldn't help but turn pale. What's up with that demonic gate? How did that demonic gate appear? Many cultivators were confused. He didn't understand how the demon gate had appeared. Suddenly, the demonic door opened a crack, and an incomparably evil aura spread out from the crack. Oh no, what lies behind that demonic gate must be incomparably terrifying. We must close that demonic gate, a cultivator said with a grim look on his face. However, none of them could reach the height of 70,000 to 80,000 meters to close the demon gate. The strength of the 9 starry sky coffin carriers was simply unimaginable. With their cultivation, they could only reach a height of 90,000 meters. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were now at a height of more than 3,000 meters, and they could feel the heavy pressure. Therefore, to reach a height of 70,000 to 80,000 meters. How powerful must one's cultivation be to be able to do this? Let's go. We can't stay in this place any longer. Let's leave Mount Pantheon first and observe the situation outside, Taoist Wu Liang said in a deep voice. As a veteran grave robber, Taoist Wu Liang's premonition of danger was incomparable to anyone else's. This ability of his, it was as if it had become a conditioned reflex. As long as danger came, Taoist Wu Liang would be able to sense it in advance. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang quickly rushed down Mount Pantheon. They wanted to leave Mount Pantheon as soon as possible. There were many cultivators who had the same idea as Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. Many cultivators rushed towards the foot of the mountain. However, they realized that the distance of a few thousand meters seemed to be endless. No matter how far they ran out, they were still on Mount Pantheon. We're in trouble. We're trapped here, a cultivator said with a trembling voice. Why is it like this? Many cultivators didn't understand why they couldn't leave Mount Pantheon. For a moment, everyone was in a state of panic. Is it an illusion? Or is there something that has affected our souls? A cultivator voiced his opinion. But no matter what the reason was, it was an indisputable fact that everyone couldn't leave Mount Pantheon. The situation was extremely bad. Lin Feng opened his heavenly demon snake eyes, wanting to see through the real scene here. He saw a small path. In the endless darkness, it emitted a bright light. Follow me, Lin Feng said as he rushed forward. Taoist Wu Liang followed closely behind Lin Feng. Hurry up and follow, many cultivators said as they followed Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang into the distance. They passed through the darkness. Vaguely, some of the scenes outside could be vaguely seen. It's coming out soon. That's great. Many cultivators were overjoyed. At this moment, Mount Pantheon made them feel uneasy. However, following behind Lin Feng, they were finally about to leave Mount Pantheon. As long as they could leave Mount Pantheon, at that time, they would be free. Suddenly, a blood-red eyeball appeared in the darkness. Lin Feng's eyes saw the blood-red eyeball. Puff. Suddenly, Lin Feng's heavenly demon snake eyes were directly pierced by an invisible force. It was as if the blood-red eyeball had attacked Lin Feng. Blood flowed out from his heavenly demon snake eyes. Ah! Lin Feng screamed, feeling as if his soul had been split open by a peerless immortal sword. That feeling was too painful. Lin Feng's body flew out. Then, he fell to the ground. He hugged his head. At that moment, Lin Feng felt as if his soul no longer belonged to him. Shua! As the blood-red eyeball opened and closed, a blood-red beam of light swept out. That blood-red beam of light directly enveloped Lin Feng's body. It was unknown what kind of existence the blood-red eyeball was. It wanted to kill Lin Feng. Immeasurable heavenly sovereign, your entire family. Taoist Wu Liang leaped out and blocked in front of Lin Feng. He held a palm leaf fan like treasure and swept it towards the blood-red beam of light. Puff. That treasure was pierced by the blood-red beam of light. Taoist Wuliang was sent flying. Wow. Chapter 3554. Although this damn Taoist usually didn't seem to be very reliable, at critical moments, he was still a trustworthy partner. At the critical moment, immeasurable Taoist saved Lin Feng's life. And at this moment, Lin Feng finally felt a little better, as if his soul had returned to its place. I'll destroy you. Lin Feng rushed forward. He pulled out the black dragon sword on his back. He directly wielded the black dragon sword and slashed towards the blood-red eyeball. Lin Feng knew that the mountain of God's suppression of his Fa Li was extremely strong. Therefore, once he ascended the mountain of gods, he couldn't summon many of the magic treasure on him. Thus, before climbing the mountain, Lin Feng summoned the black dragon sword and carried it on his back. Now, it came in handy. The blood-red eyeball once again shot out a blood-red light, aiming to kill Lin Feng. Lin Feng held the black dragon sword horizontally in front of him. Clang! The blood-red eyeball's attack landed on the black dragon sword. Suddenly, a sonorous collision sound was heard. The attack from the blood-red eyeball was blocked by Lin Feng's black dragon sword. Go to hell! Lin Feng increased his speed and rushed towards the blood-red eyeball. When he slashed down with his sword, the blood-red eyeball actually disappeared. Immeasurable heavenly sovereign, your 18 generations of ancestors, it hurts so much. Immeasurable Taoist screamed again and again. Lin Feng hurriedly went over to help Immeasurable Taoist up. How is it? Lin Feng asked. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. Hurry up and take out that immortal medicine of immortality from your body for me to swallow, or else we will be separated forever. Immeasurable Taoist looked as if he was breathing in less and more. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter, how did Immeasurable Taoist know that he had the immortal medicine of immortality on him? However, this damned Taoist's methods were extremely extraordinary. Therefore, this damned Taoist knew that he had the immortal medicine of immortality on him. It didn't seem to be something unbelievable. Lin Feng punched the Immeasurable Taoist and said, Don't play dead. If you're really dead, I'll dig a hole in the mountain of the gods and bury you here. Green mountains and clear waters, what a good burial ground. The Immeasurable Taoist immediately rolled his eyes and howled, Immeasurable heavenly sovereign, I've truly made a bad friend. This Taoist has truly met the wrong person. Lin Feng was speechless. This damned Taoist actually had the nerve to say that he had met an unworthy person. There's no way out. We're trapped again. Many people's faces were pale. Originally, under the leadership of Lin Feng, everyone had already seen some of the scenes outside and was about to escape. However, just now, Lin Feng was attacked by that blood-red eyeball. The surroundings were also shrouded in darkness, and everyone was once again trapped in Mount Pantheon. Someone rushed forward, because they felt that the way out of Mount Pantheon was just ahead. However, those cultivators were soon devoured by the darkness. Screams of agony could be heard. After the blood-curdling screams, everything returned to normal. Are they dead? Many cultivators said with trembling voices. They felt that those people might already be dead, because the screams just now were simply too mournful. Little friend, hurry up and use your eye of origin to see where the way out is. A cultivator said as he looked at Lin Feng, hoping that Lin Feng would make a move. Lin Feng shook his head and said, My eye of origin, Heavenly Demon Snake's eye is also known as the Eye of Origin, has been injured, so I won't be able to use it for a short period of time. Many people's faces turned pale when they heard Lin Feng's words. If I tell you to use it, then use it. At this moment, a cultivator stepped out and looked at Lin Feng indifferently, forcing Lin Feng to use his Eye of Origin. This cultivator was extremely powerful, and his aura was terrifying. This was an expert from the Space Scorpion Tail race. Previously, Lin Feng had once killed a direct descendant of the Space Scorpion Tail race. This was a force that no one in the starry sky world dared to provoke. It had a sage emperor-level expert overseeing it. It was definitely a colossus with a powerful bloodline and terrifying combat strength. This is Xie Wuyu, right? Someone said. It really seems to be him. Then, someone confirmed that cultivator's words. What? He's Xiaowu? Hasn't this person been dead for tens of thousands of years? A cultivator said in surprise. The cultivators who had heard of Xiaowu's name couldn't help but change their expressions slightly at this moment. Xiaowu was definitely a terrifying existence. This person was extremely evil. Moreover, his methods were vicious. Tens of thousands of years ago, in order to cultivate a powerful evil technique, Xiaowu destroyed 7 or 8 vital planets in a row. Tens of billions of people were killed. This incident caused public anger. Even the space scorpion tail race behind Xiaowu didn't dare to protect him. Many experts went to besiege Xiaowu. It was said that in that battle, Xiaowu killed 4 or 5 experts in a row, and even killed an emperor-level expert. In the end, Xiaowu was sent into the famous immortal burial abyss in the starry sky world. Everyone thought that Xiaowu was dead for sure. But who would have thought that Xiaowu was still alive and was living a carefree life? Lin Feng glanced at Xiaowu indifferently and said, "Who do you think you are? How dare you order me around?" Xiaowu's face suddenly sank. Then, he looked coldly at Lin Feng and said with a sinister smile, "Brat, you've got guts to dare be so presumptuous in front of this seat. In this world, anyone who dares to jump around in front of this seat is already dead. However, you're still useful to this seat. Once we leave Mount Myriad Gods, this seat will take your puny life." As soon as Xiaowu finished speaking, he walked towards Lin Feng step by step. A terrifying aura surged out and suppressed Lin Feng. Seeing Xiaowu make a move, many people knew that Lin Feng's situation was extremely bad. However, many people supported Xiaowu to make a move. Sacrificing Lin Feng could save everyone's lives. They didn't care if Lin Feng had helped them before. Human nature was selfish. A piece of trash like you dares to make a move against this young master? You really don't know how to write the word death. Lin Feng laughed coldly. This brat really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He dares to be so arrogant in front of Xiaowu. Only death awaits him. That's right, that brat is dead. Xiaowu is not a merciful person. After hearing what Lin Feng said to Xiaowu, many people couldn't help but discuss. Lin Feng, a quasi-emperor, actually dared to say such words to a demon like Xiaowu. He was simply courting death. Many people even wanted to pry open Lin Feng's head to see what Lin Feng was thinking. In their opinion, Lin Feng was definitely going to die. Chapter 35-55. Boom. Xiaowu attacked coldly, sending a palm strike towards Lin Feng. That terrifying palm strike contained the power to destroy heaven and earth. It was truly shocking. This person's combat strength was truly terrifying. Ordinary people could not match up to him. But Lin Feng was not afraid at all. "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish today," said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. He took a step forwards and threw a punch at Xiaowu. Death is at hand. And this kid is still so arrogant? Many people could not help but mutter in their hearts. They did not know where Lin Feng's confidence came from. But no matter what it was, no one was optimistic about Lin Feng. Bang! At this moment, accompanied by a violent collision, Lin Feng and Xiaowu collided. Everyone saw. Lin Feng did not move at all. Xiaowu was actually sent flying. Wow! In midair, Xiaowu spat out a mouthful of blood. How is this possible? Everyone cried out in disbelief. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Xiaowu was so powerful, but under Lin Feng's attack, he only took one hit from Lin Feng. He was beaten to the point of vomiting blood by Lin Feng. Wasn't this too unbelievable? But such an unbelievable thing was actually true. Lin Feng's combat strength deeply shocked everyone present. It was only now that everyone realized how terrifying Lin Feng was. Who is this guy? He's so young, but he's so strong. This is too shocking. Many cultivators could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Lin Feng's combat strength had completely subverted their imaginations. Moreover, many people felt that Lin Feng did not seem to be using his full strength. Because a moment before, when Lin Feng had thrown that punch, he had been shocked. It could be described as a cloud in the wind. If Lin Feng went all out, how terrifying would his attack be? Just thinking about it made one's hair stand on end. Weak. Too weak. I really don't know what makes a weak cultivator like you so arrogant. Lin Feng looked at Xie Wuyu indifferently. His tone was filled with disdain for Xie Wuyu. Xie Wuyu was so angry that he almost went mad. He had dominated the star field for so many years, and the only time he had suffered a great loss was when he was besieged by dozens of Emperor Realm experts. Other than that, he had never suffered a loss again. Now, he had actually suffered such a huge loss at the hands of Lin Feng. This made Xie Wuyu extremely angry. Your life. I'll take it. Lin Feng looked indifferently at Xie Wuyu. He took a step forward and punched towards Xie Wuyu. Just now, Lin Feng only used the Dracophon arm. That was just a small test. Lin Feng roughly estimated the level of Xie Wuyu's strength. Now, Lin Feng had more or less estimated the level of Xie Wuyu's strength. So, Lin Feng was very confident in this battle. If it was a competition of magic power, it might be more troublesome, because Xie Wuyu was indeed very strong. But now, Xie Wuyu's magic power was suppressed, and it was difficult for him to circulate. If it was a competition of physical strength, Xie Wuyu was really too far away. In the second attack, Lin Feng directly used 6 times the power of the Dracophon arm. That terrifying power erupted, containing a power that could destroy heaven and earth. It was simply shocking. Anyone who felt the terror of Lin Feng's attack would be shocked. Xie Wuyu was no exception. After feeling the power of Lin Feng's attack, his expression became extremely unsightly. Because Lin Feng's attack was indeed too powerful, he wanted to quickly dodge Lin Feng's attack, but Lin Feng's speed was too fast. Although Xie Wuyu's speed was also very fast, but compared to Lin Feng, the difference was too great. Xie Wuyu had no choice but to take Lin Feng's attack head-on. Bang! The two sides collided once again. This was a collision of fists and flesh. Every collision was a pure collision of flesh. Such a collision was mixed with the sound of flesh tearing through the void and the sound of violent collisions. The power that burst out from the flesh seemed to be able to shatter the void. At this moment, the sound of bones cracking suddenly resounded. Everyone's expression couldn't help but suddenly change, because everyone saw that Xie Wuyu's arm was actually broken, and the white bone dregs were even exposed. Xie Wuyu's physical body was so strong, but it was still unable to withstand Lin Feng's attack. Everyone's heart seemed to have been set off by monstrous waves. Just how strong was Lin Feng's physical body to be able to completely suppress Xie Wuyu in a crushing manner? At this moment, Lin Feng launched his third attack. A terrifying aura spread out from his body, causing many of the surrounding cultivators to almost suffocate. Everyone had the urge to kneel on the ground and worship Lin Feng. Lin Feng was simply too strong. He was like an immortal god, high and mighty. Lin Feng's attack came again. Xie Wuyu's expression changed greatly. He couldn't dodge Lin Feng's attack in time. When Lin Feng attacked, he liked to use thunderous attacks the most. All kinds of attacks were endless, directly suppressing the opponent to the point that he couldn't even raise his head. And this time, Lin Feng fully displayed his characteristics. Bang! Lin Feng's third attack directly hit Xie Wuyu's body. Xie Wuyu's body instantly exploded. Only a ball of essence was left. Lin Feng put away Xie Wuyu's essence. Dead. Xie Wuyu is dead. Xie Wuyu couldn't even withstand 3 moves from this person and was killed. This person is too terrifying. Such a harmless young cultivator actually has such battle strength. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, who would dare to believe it? The spectating cultivators couldn't help but exclaim. Lin Feng's battle prowess had already astonished those people. Let's leave quickly. I have a premonition that danger is coming here, Wuliang Daoist whispered. Lin Feng nodded. He didn't stay and quickly left with Wuliang Daoist. Cultivators left one after another, but there were also cultivators wandering in that area. They still hadn't given up on finding a way out of that area. However, it was easier said than done to escape with their lives. Ah, what's this? I don't want to die. Shrill screams could be heard one after another. The cultivators in that area didn't know what had happened. They screamed in horror. Soon, the screams completely disappeared. That area became quiet. Are they all dead? Lin Feng and Wuliang Daoist stood in the distance and looked at that area. Their expressions became extremely solemn. At this moment, a gust of cold wind suddenly swept over. Chapter 3556. It seems like something unclean is approaching us. Immeasurable Taoist priest's voice trembled slightly. Lin Feng nodded. He felt it too. The two of them quickly flew into the distance. The sky was dark to begin with. However, behind Lin Feng and immeasurable Taoist priest, darkness swept over. Endless darkness. It devoured the only trace of light between heaven and earth. Right now, Lin Feng and immeasurable Taoist priest were unable to take out their various treasures. As a result, their expressions were rather ugly. If they could take out the various treasures in their storage rings, they would be more confident. Immeasurable Taoist priest's speed could not keep up with Lin Feng. He was left far behind by Lin Feng. The darkness behind them was getting closer and closer to immeasurable Taoist priest. Immeasurable Taoist priest even had the heart to cry. Immeasurable heavenly sovereign, what the hell is approaching us? Hurry up and save me, or else we can only meet in our next life. Immeasurable Taoist priest wailed. Lin Feng said, if I eat you, maybe that unknown existence will fill its stomach. At that time, I can escape. Immeasurable Taoist priest wanted to cry but had no tears. He wailed, I've met a bad person. I've met a bad person. God damn it. Don't say that I know you. Of course, Lin Feng was joking with immeasurable Taoist priest. Immeasurable Taoist priest was his best friend. How could Lin Feng not save him? He turned back and grabbed immeasurable Taoist priest. Then, he stepped on the small world and pushed his speed to the limit. He quickly rushed forward. Lin Feng's speed was incredible. The unknown, terrifying existence that was chasing after them was also unable to catch up to Lin Feng. In the end, it was shaken off by Lin Feng. Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief, finally getting rid of that guy. Immeasurable Taoist priest said, it's very likely that it's an existence that came out of that demon gate. Lin Feng looked at the demon gate that was hanging high in the sky. The origin of that demon gate was simply too mysterious. It was indeed incomparably terrifying. Lin Feng said, that blood-red eyeball probably flew out from the devil gate. Taoist Wuliang said, I knew that Mount Pantheon was strange, but I didn't expect it to be this strange. It's much more terrifying than I imagined. Lin Feng said, yeah, I wonder if everything will go back to normal tomorrow. Even so, we still have to get through tonight before we can think about tomorrow's matters. Taoist Wuliang said. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. The immeasurable Taoist was not exaggerating. The current Mount Pantheon was indeed incomparably dangerous. At this moment, Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang both heard the sound of footsteps. They looked into the distance. Immediately, a shocked expression appeared on his face. A cultivator clad in armor and emanating a foul stench was walking towards them. Is this existence also a creature from the demonic sex? Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself, what are you waiting for? Run. Taoist Wuliang shouted and took the lead to run into the distance. Lin Feng also ran. They did not want to fight with this terrifying existence, because even if they defeated this existence, they probably would not gain any benefits. What if they were defeated? They might be beheaded. There were no benefits. Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang did not want to do that. Now, the two of them only wanted to get rid of that terrifying existence as soon as possible. However, that terrifying existence clearly did not want to let Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang go so easily. That terrifying existence leaped up and chased after Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang. That terrifying existence was extremely fast and soon caught up to Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang. He held a cold spear in his hand and directly swept it towards the two of them. It was a rusty weapon. It emitted a rotten aura. But even so, the power of that treasure was still very strong. It made Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang feel shocked and terrified. Let's work together to kill him. Seeing that they could not get rid of this terrifying existence, Taoist Wuliang shouted loudly. The horsetail whisk in his hand directly swept towards that terrifying existence's cold spear, and Lin Feng pulled out the black dragon sword on his back. He held the black dragon sword in his hand. He slashed out with his sword. Clang, clang. 2 consecutive clangs of collision were heard. The weapons of both sides collided. Lin Feng immediately felt that an earth-shattering power surged into the black dragon sword from the cold spear. Then, from the black dragon sword, it surged into Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng was directly sent flying by that terrifying power, and his face instantly became as pale as paper. Taoist Wu Liang's situation was not much better than Lin Feng's. He suffered that terrifying blow. He was also sent flying. What a pervert, Taoist Wu Liang wailed. The two of them quickly retreated. That terrifying existence charged over at high speed. It seems to be a dead spirit, Lin Feng said. He had a magic treasure that could restrain the dead spirit. But unfortunately, it was difficult for him to use his magic power now, so he could not use those magic treasures to deal with this terrifying existence. Taoist Wu Liang fumbled in his arms, and then took out a bunch of talismans. Hee, these talismans just happen to restrain ghosts. Taoist Wu Liang grinned and said, "Give me some," Lin Feng hurriedly said. He grabbed dozens of talismans from Taoist Wu Liang. At this moment, that terrifying existence had already charged over. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang hurriedly took out the talismans one after another. Those talismans directly burned. Every talisman. They all contained extremely terrifying power. The burning talismans slammed into the body of the terrifying existence. Dang, 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 dang. That terrifying existence was shaken to the point of retreating. Although he was extremely powerful, he was suppressed by Taoist Wu Liang's talismans. Everything reinforced and countered each other. This terrifying dead spirit was not invincible. There were also things that could restrain him. Maybe we can use these talismans to directly kill this guy, Taoist Wu Liang said. Lin Feng said, "If the talismans can't kill him, let's go up and make up for it." Bang, bang, bang. One talisman after another bombarded the body of this terrifying existence. This terrifying existence suffered a calamity. It was simply unable to withstand this continuous attack. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang originally thought that they could smoothly kill this terrifying existence. At this moment, an unprecedented sense of danger swept through their hearts. "Not good, let's go," Lin Feng shouted in a low voice and quickly rushed into the distance. Taoist Wu Liang's expression also changed drastically. He quickly rushed away with Lin Feng, wanting to leave this place as soon as possible. However, it was already too late for them to leave. From the void, a terrifying existence walked out. This existence was covered in scales and had wings. A pair of cold eyes were incomparably sinister and terrifying. When that supreme being appeared, Yi Zichen was stunned. The existence in armor knelt on the ground and bowed to this existence. This existence that had just appeared gently flapped its wings. Chapter 35:57. From the looks of it, these terrifying beings had a strict hierarchy. The one wearing the armor was naturally very powerful. However, before the winged being, that being was nothing more than a subordinate. The existence with the wings on its back was simply too powerful. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang felt an aura of despair envelop them. They had no way of contending against this terrifying being. They weren't even on the same level. "Who are you?" After stabilizing his body, Lin Feng looked at the winged being with a gloomy expression. He was very curious as to where this being had come from. What kind of world was it connected to after the demonic gate? The winged being wanted to continue attacking and kill Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. However, when he heard Lin Feng's question, he couldn't help but sneer. "How interesting. You're about to die. Shouldn't you be thinking of a way to escape? You're actually asking me who I am? I really want to know what you're thinking." Lin Feng said, "Since I'm about to die, why would I want to know? Before I die, I naturally want to solve the doubts in my heart." "That makes sense. However, do you think a low-level cultivator like you is qualified to know who I am?" the terrifying being said with a sneer. Lin Feng said indifferently, "My cultivation might not be high enough, but my bloodline is powerful enough. As the successor of the Sovereign Emperor clan and the Undying clan, how could he not be qualified?" When Lin Feng mentioned his bloodline, the winged being didn't seem surprised at all. It seemed the winged being already knew Lin Feng's identity. Given his powerful cultivation, he was able to determine Lin Feng's identity. This seemed to be an extremely normal thing. "If that's the case, then you do indeed have the right to know some things," the winged being said indifferently. Since I'm qualified to know, please tell me, Lin Feng said. The winged being said, we are from the forbidden god world. Lin Feng could not help but be shocked. He had never imagined that these existences were actually from the forbidden divine plane. Regarding the forbidden god world, Lin Feng did not know much about it. However, more or less, he had some understanding of it. For example, the Yazi from before. It was Lin Feng who released it from the forbidden god world. Forbidden god realm. It seemed to be a world where countless experts were imprisoned. Moreover, the forbidden god world was a very strange place. All kinds of resources and things were incomparably scarce. As such, cultivators who were trapped in the forbidden god realm often had very miserable endings. The lifespan of a cultivator was relatively long. However, if the cultivator was unable to replenish all kinds of energy and nutrients, at that time, he would definitely die in advance. If you want to survive in a place like the forbidden god realm, you need to be extremely ruthless. There was no energy or nutrients to replenish his body. Thus, they could only kill off other cultivators and devour them to replenish their body's nutrients. Therefore, the forbidden god world was a place where the natural law of strength was respected to the extreme. Back then, 4 of the 9 Yazi brothers had died in the forbidden god world. How did those 4 Yazi brothers die? They were attacked by even more powerful creatures. In order to cover their brother's escape, in the end, they died in the hands of those powerful creatures. Then, they became food for those powerful creatures. Forbidden God World. What kind of world is that? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. Lin Feng's understanding of the Forbidden God World was too little. Therefore, he wanted to know more about the Forbidden God World from this terrifying creature with wings on its back. This was definitely an extremely terrifying place. It was full of mysteries and unknowns. The Forbidden God World is a very special place. It has laws that outsiders can't imagine. Even if an immortal is trapped inside, they won't be able to come out. The terrifying existence with wings on its back said. Lin Feng was moved. The Forbidden God World was too terrifying, wasn't it? Then how did you guys get out? Lin Feng asked. The existence with wings on its back said, we were extremely lucky to be able to come out. That's because we found a mysterious demon gate. Then, we occupied the surroundings of the demon gate. Occasionally, the demon gate would open, and we could walk out of it and come to Mount Pantheon. At that time, we could eat to our heart's content. This is the only chance for us to replenish our energy. We need to eat as much as possible, because in the long years to come, we would lose the chance to eat. Perhaps there is still a chance in the Forbidden God World, but it is more likely that you will become food for other terrifying creatures. The existence with wings on its back said. Lin Feng couldn't help but ask, since you guys have already come out, you should be able to leave Mount Myriad Gods. With your powerful means, you should be able to do it, right? Do you see that demonic gate? The existence with wings on its back pointed at the demonic gate and said, that demonic gate is very strange. It controls everything here, and no one can leave Mount Myriad Gods. In the past, I once saw some powerful creatures trying to leave Mount Myriad Gods to regain their freedom, but they were killed by the demonic gate in the end. Lin Feng said in shock, why is that demonic gate so terrifying? The existence with wings on its back shook its head. Then it said, I don't know. Perhaps no one knows. Does that demonic gate have an extraordinary origin? Lin Feng asked. I don't know. I only know that the demonic gate is called the Gate of Gods. Perhaps it is related to Mount Myriad Gods. The existence with wings on its back said. At that moment, a shocking fluctuation came from behind. Taoist Wuliang held a jade talisman in his hand and tried to mobilize the magical power in his body to activate the teleportation jade talisman. Because his magical power was severely suppressed here, Taoist Wuliang tried many times to no avail. However, after trying again and again, Yizichan tried again and again. Finally, Taoist Wuliang succeeded. He had successfully activated the teleportation talisman. Although Mount Myriad Gods was surrounded by restrictions, the teleportation talisman couldn't teleport Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang out of Mount Myriad Gods. However, they only needed to be teleported somewhere else. That way, they would be able to get rid of the terrifying existence with wings on its back. Lin Feng had asked the existence with wings so many questions because he had seen Taoist Wu Yang give him a look. Therefore, Lin Feng had thought of ways to stall for time. Taoist Wu Yang didn't let Lin Feng down. A powerful energy surged out of the teleportation talisman and enveloped Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang's bodies. Their bodies became more and more illusory. Chapter 3558. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang couldn't help but reveal joy on their faces, because they were about to be teleported out. Finally, they could get rid of this terrifying existence with wings on his back. Humph! I already knew what you guys were up to. Your tricks are simply not worth mentioning in front of me. The existence with wings on his back couldn't help but snort coldly. Obviously, he seemed to have already predicted Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang's every move, and he didn't expose Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang. This meant that the existence with wings on his back had a way to deal with Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang. If there was no way to deal with Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang, he would have already stopped Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang's actions. Whoosh! The existence with wings on his back waved his hand. Instantly, streams of vigorous magic power surged out. The magic power transformed into mysterious runes in the void. Those mysterious runes actually had the ability to imprison the void. The suppression of the cultivator's mana by the Mountain of Gods was indeed very powerful. However, this also depended on the cultivator's own cultivation. This was not a forbidden space, so there was no such thing as mana being imprisoned. Here, the reason why mana was suppressed was because the laws here were too powerful. But if the cultivator was strong enough, he naturally didn't have to worry about being suppressed by the laws here. This existence with wings on his back was simply too powerful. He was indeed suppressed by the laws here. However, he was simply too tyrannical. So much so that even if he was suppressed by the local laws, this existence, he could still circulate his mana. Not good. When the existence with wings on his back took out the runes that imprisoned the void, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang's expressions changed drastically. This scene was too sudden. It caught the two of them off guard. Originally, they were about to be teleported away by the teleportation talisman, but at this moment, they encountered a huge problem. After those runes imprisoned the mana, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang could no longer travel through the void and leave. The power of the teleportation talisman quickly dissipated when it came into contact with the runes that imprisoned the void. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang fell from the sky. Immeasurable heavenly sovereign my ass. Immeasurable Taoist couldn't help but curse in a low voice, his face turning green. Lin Feng's expression also became uncertain. This was really troublesome. Could it be? Was he really going to die in the hands of this winged being? Are you ready to die? I can't wait to eat all of you. Ning, the winged being, said with a smile. His body emitted a suffocating wave of terror. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang couldn't help but reveal shocked expressions when they sensed the terrifying fluctuations emitted from his body. That fluctuation was simply too powerful and terrifying. It was simply appalling. Everyone felt the terrifying wave of energy. Most likely, they would involuntarily give birth to incomparable despair. Powerful magic power surged out from the body of the terrifying existence with the wings on its back. It directly suppressed Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang. The two of them wanted to struggle, but found that their bodies were imprisoned. The difference in strength between the two sides was huge. Therefore, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang couldn't compete with the winged being at all. The situation was precarious. Just at this critical moment, a ray of holy light flew over from afar. That ray of holy light suddenly turned into an energy palm. The energy palm, which contained destructive fluctuations, blasted toward the winged being. The winged being suddenly frowned. Feeling the terror of this attack, he raised his right hand and slapped it. Bang! The two sides collided. They were evenly matched. In the distance, a young man stepped over. The young man had a few bells hanging on his body. As he walked, the bells tinkled. The young man was so handsome that it was unbelievable. If one looked carefully, one would find that it wasn't a young man. It was a woman, disguised as a man, who looked like a young man. The Red World Fairy. Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. The person who came was actually the Red World Fairy. Lin Feng didn't expect to see the Red World Fairy here. It seemed that the Red World Fairy had also left the 9 states. Now, she appeared at Mount Pantheon and saved him and Taoist Wu Yang at the same time. The Red World Fairy came just in time. Who are you? After seeing the Red World Fairy, the winged being's expression became extremely cold. Forbidden God Realm. 8 Desolation Falling Immortal Abyss. Do you know? The Red World Fairy looked at the winged being and asked. Hearing, Forbidden God Realm. 8 Desolation Falling Immortal Abyss. The winged being's pupils contracted violently. What are you trying to do? The winged being asked. I asked a few creatures who came out of the Forbidden God Realm. They told me that you have been there. The Red World Fairy said. Venerable immortal red dust remained unperturbed even in the face of a winged being. Ever since the War of the 9 Regions Emperors, the Red World Fairy completed her transformation. They had become even more powerful, even more mysterious, and even more ethereal. Taoist Wu Yang whispered, This woman is really savage. She most likely got this information from those terrifying creatures who came out of the Forbidden God Realm. Lin Feng smiled bitterly and nodded. Indeed, it was as Taoist Wu Yang had said. Those creatures from the Forbidden God Realm were so savage that they naturally wouldn't tell the Red World Fairy the truth. Upon seeing the Red World Fairy, those creatures would definitely kill the Red World Fairy at all costs and then devour the Red World Fairy. However, the Red World Fairy was too powerful and defeated those creatures. Then, she forced out some information that she wanted to know. Forbidden God Realm. 8 Desolation Falling Immortal Abyss. Lin Feng couldn't help but silently recite this place, remembering it in his heart. He was very puzzled. Why was the Red World Fairy asking about this place? The Forbidden God Realm was a place where countless experts were imprisoned. It was also a place that no one wanted to talk about. That place was regarded as a terrifying forbidden area by countless people. Now, the Red World Fairy actually took the initiative to ask about the Forbidden God Realm and 8 Desolation Falling Immortal Abyss. Could it be the Red World Fairy wanted to enter the Forbidden God Realm? Thinking of this, Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. Once one entered a place like the Forbidden God Realm, would there be a chance to come out? The Red World Fairy couldn't really be planning to enter the Forbidden God Realm, right? Why are you asking about that place? Chapter 3559. That place. It's very important to me. The Red World Fairy said. The winged being sneered. What? Could it be that you want to enter the Forbidden God World? That's not something you should be concerned about. What you need to do is to tell me some information about the 8 Desolation Falling Immortal Abyss. The Red World Fairy said. Lin Feng could not help but mutter in his heart. The 8 Desolation Falling Immortal Abyss should be an extremely dangerous place. Therefore, even someone as powerful as the Red World Fairy needed to gather some information about the 8 Desolation Falling Immortal Abyss before entering it. You ask me, and I'll tell you? Based on what? Who do you think you are? Do you think you have the right to ask me? The winged being sneered, his eyes flashing with a cold glint. Although the Red World Fairy had displayed powerful strength, however, this existence still looked down on immortal venerable Hong Chun, because he had only used 10% of his strength earlier. And the Red World Fairy was too young, more than 4,000 years old. Although she was powerful, but no matter how powerful she was, there was still a limit, right? If you don't speak, then I'll have to beat you until you speak. The Red World Fairy said casually. She had always been like this, controlling everything. The winged being revealed a cold glint. He sneered and said, If I were you, I'd run as far as I can right now, instead of boasting shamelessly in front of me. Whether I'm boasting shamelessly or not, we'll know after we fight. The Red World Fairy took a step forward and instantly arrived in front of the winged being. She then pointed her finger at the winged entity. Heaven's Hand. Immortal Breaking Strike. The Red World Fairy's voice resounded between heaven and earth. Her attack seemed very ordinary. It did not seem very powerful, but in reality, The power of his attack was so strong that it made people pale with fright. That terrifying attack was simply shocking to the core. After feeling the power of the Red World Fairy's attack, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang couldn't help but be shocked. The Red World Fairy was too powerful. As expected of an existence who had cultivated 3,000 types of great Daos to become an emperor. Moreover, the Red World Fairy, in addition to the 3,000 types of great Daos, had also cultivated countless peerless ultimate techniques, both ancient and modern. Originally, the winged being looked down upon the Red World Fairy. He had never taken the Red World Fairy seriously, but now, he had a pair of wings on his back. He finally knew how terrifying the Red World Fairy was. He quickly made his move and threw a punch at the Red World Fairy. Above his fist, countless stars were circling around it. This divine ability was called the heavens and the universe collapse with a thought. This was a powerful ability that would shock and awe others. Bang! Immortal venerable Hong Chun collided with the terrifying winged existence's attack. These two powerful existences were still evenly matched this time. However, the first time they attacked, the winged being only used 10% of his battle strength. But this time, he used 70% of his battle strength. However, even though he used 70% of his battle strength, he still couldn't cause any harm to the Red World Fairy. The winged being's heart couldn't help but sink. Although his cultivation had declined greatly because he had been trapped in the Forbidden God realm for too long. However, the winged being was still incomparably powerful. He was an existence that stood at the top of the starry sky world. With such a powerful cultivation, it was still difficult to defeat a cultivator who had only cultivated for more than 4,000 years. Of course, the winged being wouldn't underestimate the Red World Fairy's bloodline and talent just because the Red World Fairy was a human cultivator. These ancient existences, they all knew how terrifying the human race was. Only those ignorant existences thought that the human race's bloodline and talent couldn't compare to theirs. I'll give you one last chance. The Red World Fairy was incomparably powerful. Her voice was unquestionable. She looked so beautiful, even a little cute, but in fact, her appearance was completely different from her personality. Don't be deceived by the Red World Fairy's charming appearance. The Red World Fairy. She was an extremely decisive person. Humph. I'll let you have a taste of my ultimate move. The winged being snorted coldly. Then, he directly rushed towards the Red World Fairy. Ancient godly spirits appeared behind him. There were a total of 36 godly spirits. Every single deity. They were all incomparably terrifying. They seemed to be existences that stood at the peak of the era in the past. Those existences. They were all great existences in the era of the titled gods. 36 gods was the name of the supernatural power displayed by this terrifying winged being. It summoned the eternal primordial spirits left behind by the 36 experts of the era of the titled gods to fight against the enemy. This supernatural power was definitely an unprecedented level of supernatural power. It was incomparably terrifying. Return of the gods. Kill the gods and slay the immortals. The terrifying winged being couldn't help but shout coldly. Boom. Then, the eternal primordial spirits of the 36 titled gods emitted a terrifying power that distorted space and time. The eternal primordial spirits of the 36 titled gods directly charged towards the Red World Fairy. What an unparalleled and invincible unique skill. Immeasurable Taoist couldn't help but say. His eyes were shining. This unique skill made Immeasurable Taoist covet it. However, this technique was cultivated by the terrifying creature with the wings on its back. Immeasurable Taoist. He could only think about it. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. The supernatural power cast by the winged being was indeed incomparably terrifying. He just didn't know if the Red World Fairy could deal with that terrifying supernatural power. At this moment, a destructive aura surged out from the Red World Fairy's body. The 3,000 red dust is just a cloud of smoke. Facing the attack of the 36 titled gods' eternal primordial spirits, the Red World Fairy stretched out her right hand and gently pointed at them. Suddenly, a pink power pervaded the air. This was the power of the red dust. Everyone was immersed in the world of mortals. and the Red World Fairy was the immortal lord. She was an existence that controlled the path of the red dust. And the path of the red dust. It was the path that the Red World Fairy had created herself. When the eternal primordial spirits of the 36 titled gods were enveloped by the power of the red dust unleashed by the Red World Fairy. The eternal primordial spirits of the 36 titled gods were imprisoned in the void and couldn't move. In the end, the eternal primordial spirits of the 36 titled gods completely dissipated, and the Red World Fairy appeared in front of the winged being as if she had teleported. She slapped the chest of the winged being with her palm. It was as if the terrifying existence had been struck by lightning. Chapter 3560. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were both shocked. The Red World Fairy was truly too powerful. If this woman continued to grow like this, she definitely had the potential to become a top-notch expert in the myriad heavens. Perhaps her glorious name would be left behind in the history of this era. After the winged being was repelled by the Red World Fairy, it was unable to make a powerful counterattack. The Red World Fairy came to its side and used a powerful sealing technique to seal the winged being. Then, immortal venerable red dust gently tapped the winged creature's head. The winged being trembled violently and let out a low growl from time to time. Obviously, he must have been soul-searched by the Red World Fairy. The armored being charged towards the Red World Fairy, wanting to save the winged being. The Red World Fairy sent out a palm strike. A giant energy handprint was formed. The energy hand slammed into the armored being. That tyrannical existence was sent flying by immortal venerable Hong Chun. So that's how it is. The Red World Fairy seemed to have gotten everything she wanted. She couldn't help but squint her eyes. No one knew what she was thinking. The winged being immediately roared, "You actually dared to soul search me. Even if I die today, I will curse you to die a horrible death." Having one's soul searched was one of the greatest humiliations a cultivator could suffer. The winged being naturally couldn't endure such humiliation. His hatred towards the Red World Fairy was monstrous. Your curse is useless against me. When we reach the Forbidden God realm, I still need you to lead the way, so you won't die for now." The Red World Fairy's expression was cold. She sent out a rune in the air. The runes directly entered the body of the terrifying creature with the wings on its back. The body of the winged creature began to shrink rapidly until it was the size of a thumb. The Red World Fairy put it into a porcelain bottle. The Red World Fairy also ignored Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. She walked up the mountain and quickly disappeared into the darkness. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang did not dare to stay any longer. They quickly left this place. This woman is awesome. But from the looks of it, she seems to want to enter the Forbidden God realm. The Forbidden God realm was a place that caused everyone's expression to change. No one would take the initiative to enter the Forbidden God world, because it was easy to enter but difficult to come out. This woman actually wanted to enter the Forbidden God world. What do you think is inside the 8 Desolation Falling Immortal Abyss? He actually made the Red World Fairy risk her life to enter the Forbidden God realm? Wu Liang looked at Lin Feng and said. Lin Feng said, "That's hard to say. Logically speaking, there should be very few things in this world that can attract the attention of the Red World Fairy, unless it's some top-notch great Tao." Wu Liang said, "That's right. This woman is very mysterious. No one knows what she's thinking." This night was extremely restless, because the creatures of the Forbidden God realm walked out from the other side of the Demon Gate. Those creatures were simply too terrifying. It was unknown how many cultivators had died under the attacks of those terrifying creatures. This was a night of slaughter. Lin Feng and the boundless Taoist priest found a cave and hid there. They saw with their own eyes that many cultivators were killed in the forest, but they did not go out, because they could not even protect themselves. Naturally, they would not risk their lives to save others. That would be overestimating themselves. Fortunately, Lin Feng and Wu Liang were not discovered by those terrifying existences. They were on tenterhooks for the entire night. Finally, dawn appeared on the horizon. The darkness was dispersing. Rumble, rumble. The huge demonic gate began to shake violently, emitting an earth-shattering sound. The demon gate is going to disappear. Those terrifying existences from the forbidden god realm are going to disappear too, right? Wu Liang could not help but mutter. Lin Feng said, they should disappear together. We've finally survived the crisis. In the end, the demon gate disappeared. All the creatures from the forbidden god realm left. Calmness finally returned to Mount Pantheon. Many cultivators walked out of their hiding places. It felt great to be able to survive. Previously, many people felt that they might die here. But now, the crisis was finally over. This damn Mount Pantheon is too dangerous. Anyway, we've already obtained many opportunities. Let's leave this place quickly. I don't want to stay in this place for another quarter of an hour. A cultivator said, with the demon gate gone, there shouldn't be any danger later, right? We can take advantage of this opportunity to continue looking for opportunities. There were also some cultivators who had other views. Some cultivators left and some entered. Mount Pantheon was still very lively. There were not many changes because of the appearance of those creatures from the forbidden god realm. This place still attracted countless cultivators to search for treasures. Countless cultivators could not help but go crazy. Look, someone is going to reach the peak. At this moment, a cultivator shouted in shock. Then, many people pointed up. Countless cultivators looked up and saw a cultivator stepping on the void, walking towards the peak step by step. No one knew what was at the peak of the 100,000-meter tall Mount Pantheon, but they could imagine. That place was definitely extraordinary. The Red World Fairy. She didn't enter the forbidden god realm from the demon gate? Lin Feng was very surprised, because the cultivator who was quickly approaching the peak was the Red World Fairy. At this moment, the Red World Fairy was holding a scepter. No one knew what scepter it was. The scepter emitted endless holy light that enveloped the Red World Fairy. At that moment, the Red World Fairy seemed to have become one with the scepter. She's using that mysterious scepter to ascend the Mount Pantheon. Lin Feng could not help but say, "Epic scepter." Immeasurable Taoist exclaimed. He actually recognized the scepter in the Red World Fairy's hand. Epic scepter? What kind of treasure is that? Lin Feng could not help but ask. That scepter was related to the word epic, so it was definitely not a small matter. Because any treasure that was related to the word opportunity was extremely heaven-defying. Naturally, the treasure in the Red World Fairy's hand was the same. Rumor has it that it's a supreme treasure in the hands of the previous Epic Lord. It represents supreme power. This is a treasure that transcends epochs. It should be a supreme treasure on the same level as ancient weapons. Immeasurable Taoist said. His eyes were fixed on the epic scepter in the Red World Fairy's hand. He could not wait to take that supreme treasure for himself. Lin Feng was shocked that the scepter had such a great origin. It really gave people a feeling of incredulity. The Red World Fairy held the epic scepter in her hand and broke the terrifying pressure that was emitted from the Mount Pantheon. Soon, she reached the 80,000-meter position. There stood the 9-star coffin carriers. Chapter 3561. It was unimaginable how powerful the 9 cosmic coffin carriers were. They were unable to reach the peak of Mount Pantheon. As for the Red World Fairy, her wish to reach the peak of Mount Pantheon with the help of the epic scepter had failed. It was too difficult to reach the peak of Mount Pantheon. He didn't know which expert had built the mountain of myriad gods. The laws here were simply too terrifying. It made one's hair stand on end. The power of destiny has brought us together. We will eventually create our own miracle. At this moment, Venerable Red Dust began to recite the incantation. Immortal Venerable Hong Chun chanted one mysterious incantation after another. This was the spell to activate the Tao of Fate. The Red World Fairy was using the Tao of Fate. The formidable power of destiny surged and blessed the 9 starry sky coffin carriers. The eyes of the 9 cosmic coffin carriers were originally dazed. They seemed to have completely lost themselves. But now, when the power of fate, when it descended, their eyes became much clearer. At that moment, they seemed to have regained a bit of their consciousness. Fate can only be grasped in your own hands. Fight against the heavens. Even if you fail, you have no regrets. The Red World Fairy's faint voice could be heard. Roar. The 9 vicious dragons let out an earth-shaking dragon roar. Roar! The dragons and elephants roared at the sky, their roars shaking the entire starry sky world. At this moment, the 9 cosmic coffin carriers were recovering their power. Taoist Wu Liang said in shock. The 9 cosmic coffin carriers seem to have lost themselves. But now, the Red World Fairy is using the Tao of Fate to change their fates, allowing them to regain a bit of their consciousness. The Red World Fairy seems to want to join forces with the 9 cosmic coffin carriers to reach the peak of Mount Pantheon. The Red World Fairy's methods were simply too heaven-defying. It was truly shocking. Lin Feng said, "That's right. If these experts join forces, they might be able to do it. But I wonder what's at the peak of Mount Pantheon?" Not only did it attract the 9 cosmic coffin carriers, but even the Red World Fairy was drawn here. Taoist Wu Liang said, "The most important thing is that the 9 cosmic coffin carriers have already lost themselves, yet they still came here. This is too unbelievable." Lin Feng said, "Maybe it's their instinct, or the hidden meaning in their minds, that brought them here." At this moment, Honorable Immortal Red Dust and the 9 cosmic coffin carriers had already begun their ascent of Mount Myriad Deities. The auras of these experts were all connected together. So at this moment, it was as if they had become one. Rumble, 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 rumble. The mysterious ancient sarcophagus crushed the void. The ancient pantheonic coffin everywhere out of space. The 9 great starry sky coffin carriers and senior immortal Red Dust. Read together. Was closer pantheon they went from 80,000 meters to 90,000 meters. From a position of 90,000 meters to a position of only 1,000 meters away from 100,000 meters. We're really going to reach the peak of Mount Pantheon. Many people couldn't help but exclaim. Many cultivators had a doubt in their hearts. What was at the top of Mount Pantheon that made so many terrifying existences want to climb to the top of Mount Pantheon so desperately? But for the cultivators below, this matter was destined to be a mystery. No one could explain it to them. The last kilometer was also the most difficult to traverse. The 9 cosmic coffin carriers and the Red World Fairy also had a hard time walking. Every step forward seemed to require a lot of effort. But, in the end, they successfully crossed the 1,000-meter distance and reached the peak. We've really reached the peak of Mount Pantheon. The peak of Mount Pantheon. I really want to see the situation at the peak. A cultivator couldn't help but say. They yearned to reach the peak of Mount Pantheon, but this was destined to be an extravagant hope. The people present. There was no lack of experts. There were even sage emperor-level cultivators hiding in the dark. But, except for the 9 cosmic coffin carriers and the Red World Fairy who held the epic scepter, no one could reach the peak of Mount Pantheon. It was an untouchable place. Wanting to reach it, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. There must be something heaven-defying. Immeasurable Taoist was scratching his heart. He yearned to go up, but he didn't know how. The 9 cosmic coffin carriers and the Red World Fairy soon disappeared from everyone's sight. They probably went to the peak of Mount Pantheon to obtain the opportunity. Suddenly, at this moment, endless holy light surged out from the peak of Mount Pantheon. In the holy light, the faint sound of the great Tao could be heard. As time passed, the originally blurry and unclear sound of the great Tao began to become clearer and clearer. The sound of the great Tao that resounded between heaven and earth was extraordinary. Many cultivators couldn't help but sit on the ground. Then they began to comprehend the Tao. Why is my body getting hotter and hotter? Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath because he felt his body getting hotter and hotter. It was getting hotter and hotter. Immeasurable Taoist looked at Lin Feng and was shocked. He asked, "Brother, are you all right?" At this moment, Lin Feng's body was completely red. It was as if he had been roasted in a furnace for 3 days and 3 nights. "I feel like my body is melting," Lin Feng said with a bitter smile. It was a terrible feeling. He felt like his body no longer belonged to him. This had never happened before. Tao. At this moment, a voice resounded in Lin Feng's mind. Next, Lin Feng's bloodline began to circulate on its own. Lin Feng's 2 bloodlines were circulating at an extremely fast speed. Lin Feng felt that there seemed to be some power in his body that was about to awaken. Could it be? Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. Lin Feng now knew his situation. He had inherited two bloodlines from his father. One was the Undying bloodline, and the other was the Destiny bloodline. The Destiny bloodline had nothing to do with the Undying clan. Lin Baiyan's bloodline had evolved. The Destiny bloodline was Lin Baiyan's own opportunity. As Lin Baiyan's son, Lin Feng also inherited the Destiny bloodline that originated from Lin Baiyan. In addition, Lin Feng also inherited the Sovereign Emperor clan that his mother, Ji Long had passed down. Apart from that, there seemed to be a fourth mysterious power. It seemed to be a kind of bloodline power. Some people were born with some inconceivable bloodlines. Lin Feng's fourth bloodline was very likely to be born in this way. These people were often favored by the heavens. Now, Lin Feng felt as if a bloodline was about to awaken. However, he didn't know if it was the Destiny bloodline. Chapter 3562. An illusory figure appeared in Lin Feng's dantian. It was blurry. Outsiders couldn't see it, but Lin Feng could sense it. Father! When he sensed the illusory figure in his dantian, Lin Feng couldn't help but be extremely shocked. It was actually the illusory figure of his father, Lin Baiyan. Bloodline imprint. This was the illusory figure of Lin Baiyan that was imprinted in his bloodline. At that moment, Lin Baiyan's illusory figure completely merged with Lin Feng's body. And Lin Feng, he felt a terrifying power that he had never felt before. It surged in his body. That power was crazily increasing Lin Feng's battle strength. Ascend the mountain of gods. Lin Baiyan's voice resounded in Lin Feng's mind. Lin Feng was shocked. The bloodline imprint that his father left in his body actually allowed him to ascend the mountain of gods. Could he do it? Believe in yourself. Firm belief. Strong will. This is the guarantee of success. Lin Baiyan's voice continued to resound in Lin Feng's mind. Every word. They were all encouraging Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded, and his gaze became unprecedentedly firm. He stepped towards the peak. What are you going to do? Wu Liang Taoist asked. Ascend the mountain of gods, Lin Feng said. Wu Liang Taoist knew that Lin Feng's body had changed, although he didn't know what caused Lin Feng's change. However, this change obviously made Lin Feng extremely powerful. Wu Liang Taoist felt that at this moment, Lin Feng's body seemed to have a power that didn't originally belong to him. Wu Liang Taoist was very clear about Lin Feng's background. The descendant of such an ancient and powerful family might have some terrifying means that outsiders could never imagine. So even though they knew that reaching the peak of the Mountain of Gods was almost impossible for them. However, when Lin Feng said those words, Lin Feng's expression changed. Immeasurable Taoist didn't have any doubts. He quickly said, "Take me with you." This damned Taoist had long been drooling at the thought of climbing to the top of the Mountain of Gods. Therefore, how could he miss this opportunity? Lin Feng, on the other hand, grabbed Wu Liang by the collar and then stepped into the air, walking towards the peak. Because, at this moment, Lin Feng had become extremely powerful after fusing with his father's bloodline. Therefore, he could once again circulate the magic power in his body. Therefore, Lin Feng could now walk on air. Immeasurable heavenly sovereign my ass. Do you still want my image? Taoist Wu Liang shouted in dissatisfaction. He was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Lin Feng ignored the immeasurable Taoist. He was still holding on to Taoist Wu Liang's collar. He held the damned Taoist in his hand like a little chick. Then, Lin Feng walked up step by step. Lin Feng's speed was very fast. Not long after, he arrived at a height of 70 to 80,000 meters. He was about to reach the top of the Mountain of Gods. He was getting closer and closer. Many people were alarmed and couldn't believe their eyes. The 9 great starry sky coffin carriers and the Red World Fairy worked together to reach the top of the Mountain of Gods. And Lin Feng was just a young cultivator, and he was even carrying a Taoist in his hand. How did he ignore the terrifying pressure of the Mountain of Gods, and then gradually reach the top of the Mountain of Gods? Everyone's face was filled with disbelief. Everyone racked their brains to think about this matter. They tried to guess the reason, but in the end, they came up with nothing. No one knew how Lin Feng did it, but Lin Feng had indeed done it. Could it be that that kid has the token of the Mountain of Gods? So he wasn't suppressed by the laws of the Mountain of Gods? At this time, a cultivator said, "Perhaps there is such a possibility." Many people nodded in agreement, because other than this possibility, no one could think of any other reason. Something that allowed Lin Feng to ignore the laws of the Mountain of Gods and reach the top step by step. Of course, Lin Feng wasn't without pressure. In truth, Lin Feng was also under great pressure. However, the current Lin Feng was simply too powerful. The powerful pressure didn't have much of an effect on him. Lin Feng was approaching the top of the Mountain of Gods. The closer he got to the top of the Mountain of Gods, the clearer the mysterious sound of the Great Tao became. The supreme Great Tao contained within the sound of the Great Tao made Lin Feng and Taoist Wuyang feel as if they were in an extremely special environment. Here, they could comprehend the extraordinary Great Tao of heaven and earth at any time, anywhere. What a heaven-defying place. I can't wait to see what's at the top. At this moment, Taoist Wuyang didn't care that Lin Feng had grabbed him by the collar and dragged him all the way to the top of the Mountain of Gods. His thoughts were all on the top of the Mountain of Gods. Soon, perhaps he would be able to see what was at that place. The last 1,000 meters. The pressure on Lin Feng was also great. However, fortunately, Lin Feng's methods were too extraordinary. He successfully overcame the terrifying pressure. Then, step by step, he reached the top. 900 meters, 800 meters, 700 meters, 600 meters, 500 meters. As Lin Feng got closer and closer to the top, the cultivators below were in an uproar. "It's him." Among the crowd, a cold gaze looked at Lin Feng. The supreme genius of the ancient god clan, Shen Doxi, had a cold expression. He'd had a conflict with Lin Feng before. He'd originally wanted to kill Lin Feng. However, because the human-faced vampire bat was willing, he hadn't done so. Now, Shen Doxi couldn't help but feel regret. If he'd killed Lin Feng back then, perhaps the token on Lin Feng would have belonged to him. If he had Lin Feng's token, then all the fortuitous encounters would be his. This kid must die. It won't be too late to kill him after he obtains the opportunity. Killing intent flashed in Shen Doxi's eyes. There were many cultivators who had the same idea as Shen Doxi. Many of them wanted to wait until Lin Feng obtained the opportunity before killing Lin Feng. At this time, Lin Feng had already arrived at the top of the Mountain of Gods. The last 100 meters. The pressure was also the greatest. Lin Feng felt that his body was about to collapse. However, he gritted his teeth and persevered. Lin Feng grabbed Taoist Wuyang and crossed the last 100 meters and successfully reached the top of the Mountain of Gods. He really did it. Many people exclaimed. Killing intent flashed in the eyes of many experts. They were just waiting for Lin Feng to come down from the top of the Mountain of Gods to attack Lin Feng. That's, at this moment. Chapter 3563. Dazzling holy light lingered around. Looking carefully, an illusory world appeared in the holy light. In that illusory world, there was a stone door. That stone door was simply too big. Tall. How many tens of thousands of feet? Wide. How many tens of thousands of feet? Endless runes and pictures were drawn on the stone door. That stone door exuded an ancient aura. That aura seemed to have crossed the ages. Immortal. Now, the 9 coffin carriers and the Red World Fairy had entered the mysterious world that appeared in the holy light. They tried to get close to that ancient stone door. Lin Feng and the Taoist priest glanced at each other. The scene in front of them was something they had never thought of. Who would have thought such a scene would appear at the peak of Mount Pantheon? That stone door definitely had an extraordinary origin. But Lin Feng and Wu Liang didn't know the true origin of that stone door. Lin Feng wanted to communicate with the Demon Lord. Ask the Demon Lord if he knew about that stone door. After all, the Demon Lord was knowledgeable. However, when Lin Feng tried to communicate with the Demon Lord, he found that he couldn't contact the Demon Lord. This surprised Lin Feng. He didn't know why, but he couldn't contact the Demon Lord. Was it because of Mount Pantheon? Or was it because of his father's bloodline imprint? Lin Feng didn't know the specific reason. But what was done couldn't be undone. Since he couldn't contact the Demon Lord, he naturally couldn't ask about that stone door. "Let's go and take a look," said Lin Feng to the Taoist priest. He wanted to go and see what the stone gate was. Maybe he'd find something there. Wu Liang nodded. He couldn't wait to go to the stone door. The stone door that the 9 coffin carriers and the Red World Fairy were looking at must hide a great secret. As for what this secret was, after exploring, maybe they could find it. The two entered the illusory world that appeared in the holy light. Looking from the outside, this world was an illusory world. But when they entered this illusory world, they found that this world was so real. This was a starry sky world. That ancient stone door was in the depths of the starry sky world. It was infinitely high and infinitely wide. Lin Feng's heart was filled with deep shock, because when he faced the stone door, he was shocked. She felt so small and insignificant. That stone gate was so majestic. Lin Feng didn't even know why he had such a feeling. There's actually such a stone gate in this world. How incredible! Immeasurable Taoist couldn't help but feel emotional. He was extremely shocked. "Perhaps anyone who saw this stone door would be shocked," said Lin Feng. "The Creator is the greatest and most mysterious being. There are always some things in the world that we can't understand." The boundless Taoist priest agreed with Lin Feng. Moreover, this damned Taoist had been active in the tomb-robbing world for many years and had excavated countless ancient tombs. In many tombs, Taoist Wu Liang had seen some incredible things. His knowledge, ordinary people couldn't compare with him. Lin Feng couldn't compare with the Taoist priest of the Wu Liang Taoist sect. Lin Feng and the Taoist priest were getting closer and closer to the gigantic gate. The 9 coffin carriers and the Red World Fairy had already arrived in front of the stone door. Not long after, Lin Feng and the boundless Taoist priest also arrived. The strong cultivators couldn't help but glance at Lin Feng and the Taoist priest, but they didn't say anything. Buzz. At this time, there was a shocking fluctuation between heaven and earth. The ripples shook the void world. This fluctuation came from that mysterious stone door. It resonated with heaven and earth. The 9 coffin carriers and the Red World Fairy were all sitting cross-legged in the void. They closed their eyes as if they were comprehending the great Tao. Lin Feng and Wu Liang also quickly sat cross-legged in the void to comprehend. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Feng felt that the aura around him seemed to have changed. He opened his eyes. He discovered that the 9 cosmic coffin carriers, Immortal Senior Red Dust, and Taoist Immeasurable had all disappeared without a trace. But that huge stone door was still here. In the distance, there was a figure standing there. It was a man. His figure was tall and handsome. One could vaguely see that the man was somewhat similar to Lin Feng. That man. It turned out to be Lin Beitian. He stood in front of the stone door and looked at it. No one knew what he was thinking. Father came here in the past. Lin Feng was surprised. He knew that everything he saw was not real, but some images imprinted in the past. Now he saw it. Lin Feng originally thought that he knew his father Lin Beitian very well. But now, Lin Feng knew. He knew very little about his father. Too many things had happened to his father Lin Beitian. Lin Feng did not know. Just like how his father came to this ancient stone door in the past. The secret of eternal life. Suddenly, Lin Beitian spoke. Just 5 words. Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. He was incomparably shocked because he had heard 5 words that were enough to shake his heart. The secret of eternal life. His father, Lin Beitian, said these words to the stone gate. He then thought of the rumored door of everlasting life. A thought appeared in Lin Feng's mind. This stone door in front of him. Could it be the legendary door of eternal life? Countless cultivators had paid a heavy price in order to find the door of eternal life. Even some cultivators who stood at the peak of cultivation spent their entire lives searching for the whereabouts of the door of eternal life. But they found nothing. In this world, there were too few people who had seen the door of eternal life. It was rumored that the door of eternal life hid the greatest secrets of heaven and earth. The 3,000 great Taos, the secret to becoming an immortal, the method to eternal life, and so on. Any of the secrets, they were enough to shock the world. And it was rumored that in the world inside the door of eternal life, there were countless treasures. The value of any one of the treasures was enough to cause a bloody storm in the cultivation world. So many cultivators searched for the door of eternal life but could not find it. But he found the door of eternal life? Was this true? Lin Feng felt very incredulous. If it was really the door of eternal life, then it was really too shocking. At this time, his father Lin Baiyan's figure disappeared, leaving only Lin Feng facing the door of eternal life alone. I can comprehend the great Tao here. Rumor has it that only those who see the door of eternal life can obtain the cultivation method of the Great Fate technique. Do I have a chance to obtain this ability? Chapter 3564. The Tao of Destiny was the most difficult great Tao to comprehend. Moreover, you had to comprehend it yourself. Even if someone taught you this ability, you wouldn't be able to learn it. This was the extraordinary aspect of the Tao of Destiny. Now that Lin Feng saw the door of everlasting life, it was rumored that one could comprehend the Tao of Destiny in front of the door of everlasting life. In fact, it wasn't just the Tao of Destiny. It was rumored that one could even comprehend the method of eternal life in front of the door of everlasting life. Of course, Lin Feng didn't know if this rumor was true. However, nothing was groundless. Since there was such a rumor, that meant that it might be true. Lin Feng was immersed in the comprehension of the great Tao. However, how could the Tao of Destiny be so easy to comprehend? It could be that a day had passed. It could be that 10 days had passed. It could also be that a month had passed. Lin Feng could no longer determine the flow of time outside. Because at this moment, Lin Feng was completely immersed in the comprehension of the Tao. He was comprehending the door of everlasting life. This stone door was filled with endless mysteries. It's rumored that there's a world inside the door of everlasting life. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. The value of the things inside the door of everlasting life was unimaginable. Any one of them. It was enough to cause a bloodbath in the world of cultivators. Therefore, Lin Feng naturally wanted to enter the world inside the door of everlasting life to see what kind of world it was. Perhaps he would have the opportunity to obtain some treasures. If that was the case, it would be even better. However, Lin Feng couldn't enter the world inside the door of everlasting life. At this stage, Lin Feng could only comprehend the Tao contained in the door of everlasting life. The door of everlasting life was densely covered with runes and pictures that contained endless Tao. If he could comprehend it, he would benefit greatly. Kill. Suddenly, Lin Feng heard earth-shattering shouts. Then, he realized that the scene in front of him had changed. Lin Feng realized that he had come to another world. The door of everlasting life that he saw before had disappeared. This was a deep level of comprehension. Lin Feng felt that everything in front of him should be some of the past memories left behind by the door of everlasting life. Dark clouds rolled in the distance. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. The torrential rain poured down. One cultivator after another charged into the dark clouds, not fearing death. But in the end, they all perished. Lin Feng had seen such a scene before. This was the result of the Great War that the creature that started the Armageddon War instigated. Lin Feng already had a certain understanding of the Doomsday Battle. The creatures of the wastelands, the foreign creatures, and the creatures that crossed epochs were all the main culprits behind the world-ending battle. However, Lin Feng had a feeling. These three forces seemed to be only forces on the surface. Behind the scenes, there was actually an invisible hand manipulating everything. Lin Feng didn't know why he had this feeling, but Lin Feng had always been very confident in his own feelings. If there really was a mastermind behind the scenes, then what kind of existence was the mastermind? Now, there was no way to know. The scene was changing rapidly, and countless experts had fallen. This great war engulfed all the worlds in the universe, and one great war after another broke out. Many battlefields appeared between heaven and earth, and those battlefields were called the battlefield of the gods by later generations. Those places were really too dangerous. They had long been turned into a land of death. Who knew how many creatures had been buried there? No one was willing to enter such a dangerous place. Lin Feng saw the scenes in the universe. Planets and worlds were destroyed. Many great worlds were also destroyed. This should be the Great War of the Sciention life forms era. When Lin Feng saw the universe being destroyed, he couldn't help but be shocked. Many great wars had broken out in this epoch, and every era would have a great war. However, there were probably only a few truly tragic battles. The final Great War of the Sentient Life Forms era was one of the most tragic and important wars of this epoch. This Great War was so tragic that most of the Sentient Life Forms perished. Countless forces were destroyed, and the cultivation system was on the verge of collapse. After this Great War, the remaining forces and a small number of sentient life forms originally wanted to rest and recuperate. But later, some unknown things happened, causing the remaining forces and sentient life forms to fall one after another. At this point, the cultivation system had completely collapsed. After more than 10 or even dozens of eras, the world of cultivators had completely declined. And the fuse for all of this was the Great War of the late-stage sentient life forms. Lin Feng now witnessed the tragic situation of that Great War. This is the Doomsday Battle, but it failed. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. Many forces participated in this Great War. This included the Otherworld, the Wasteland, and the beings from the other epochs. These three forces also suffered heavy losses. At that time, these forces wanted to stop the war, but it was already impossible. At this moment, Lin Feng saw endless evil clouds filling the heavens. Those evil clouds covered the sky and the sun. The sentient life forms of this epoch, the various forces, the beings from the wasteland, the beings from the other epochs, and the otherworld all suffered a calamity. What's in the evil clouds? Could it be the mastermind behind this? Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. He had always suspected that there was a mastermind behind the Doomsday Battle, and now it seemed that he was really close to the truth. Of course, there were also some other possibilities. For example, the beings from the wasteland, the otherworld, and the beings from the other epochs who participated in the war at the beginning were just the more ordinary forces among these three forces, and the existence that took action later. It also belonged to one of these three forces, but the existence that took action was a more mysterious and powerful force. And the existence that took action at the end was the ruler that controlled everything. Even the forces from the other world were not spared. Just like before, they were all killed cleanly. Because Lin Feng didn't experience what happened back then. So many things needed to be guessed. So Lin Feng made all kinds of guesses about the Doomsday Battle. However, all of these guesses were just guesses. The beings from the wasteland, the otherworld, the beings from the other epochs, the mysterious evil clouds, and so on. What kind of role they played in the Doomsday Battle, perhaps only they themselves knew. Others had no way of finding out. At this rate, the myriad worlds should have been destroyed. This epoch should have been destroyed as well, but this epoch continued. What happened later? Lin Feng couldn't help but feel puzzled. I'm willing to sacrifice my life in exchange for a chance to live for billions of lives. At this moment, a sacred voice sounded from the depths of the starry world. Chapter 3565. A woman flew out from the depths of the starry sky world. She was so beautiful that she took one's breath away. However, in front of this woman, no one dared to have any thoughts of blasphemy. This woman was dignified, beautiful, and holy. Anyone who saw her would be shocked. Anyone who saw her would have the urge to worship her. Lady Nuwa. When he saw this woman, Lin Feng was shocked. This was Lady Nuwa. Lin Feng couldn't be mistaken. Her lower body was that of a snake, while her upper body was that of a human. It was the image of Lady Nuwa. Lady Nuwa was one of the first sentient life forms to awaken in this era, other than the 5 great leaders. Lady Nuwa's greatest contributions were 2. She was the mother of the earth and could create all living things. Under the guidance of the first ancestor of the sovereign emperor clan, she created all living things. The second major event was the legend of Lady Nuwa mending the heavens. Many people thought that Lady Nuwa mending the heavens was just a myth. They didn't treat it as real. In fact, these people didn't know that Lady Nuwa mending the heavens wasn't just a story. It was a real thing. After the beginning of the era, the myriad worlds evolved. However, at this time, because the new era was formed after the Big Bang, therefore, the laws were extremely unstable. Things like the heavens collapsing and the earth collapsing often happened. Once the heavens collapsed and the earth collapsed, countless living things would die tragically. Therefore, disasters often happened in that era. Lady Nuwa sympathized with the billions of living things, so she personally searched for the heaven-mending stone. She began mending the heavens. The heavens that Lady Nuwa mended. It wasn't the heavens and the earth that split apart. It referred to the heavenly Tao laws. After the heavenly Tao laws of the myriad worlds stabilized, naturally, the heavens wouldn't collapse and the earth would no longer happen. This was the origin of Lady Nuwa mending the heavens. However, after countless years, many people thought that Lady Nuwa mending the heavens was just a legend. It was even worse. Many cultivators thought that Lady Nuwa was just a mythical character and not a real person. After all, the long history of the era had passed. How many people still believe that mythical characters were real? Perhaps. Only a very small number of people still believe that this was real. However, even more people didn't believe all of this. They thought this was just a story. When he saw Mother Nuwa, Lin Feng thought of the Empress. The Empress was a descendant of Goddess Nuwa. Ever since the Empress left, Lin Feng hadn't seen the Empress for many years and didn't know how she was doing now. In the past, Lin Feng had learned some things about Goddess Nuwa from the Empress. According to the Empress, Goddess Nuwa had mysteriously disappeared back then. The clansmen searched for a long time, but there were no clues. And now, Mother Nuwa had appeared before him. The time when he disappeared. Where did Mother Nuwa go? I am willing to use my body to continue the legacy of life. Mother Nuwa's voice continued to echo throughout the world. Next, something terrible happened. Mother Nuwa's body actually began to spontaneously disintegrate. Her body turned into 7-colored holy light. The Grand Vow Art. Mother Nuwa is using the Grand Vow Art. He sacrificed himself. He wants to reverse the fate of the myriad worlds. Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. There was no need to explain the greatness of the Grand Vow Art. Since ancient times, there were very few cultivators who had successfully cultivated the Grand Vow Art. The most recent cultivator who had successfully cultivated the Grand Vow Art should be the Red World Fairy. It was extremely difficult to cultivate the Grand Vow Art. One needed to have the courage to sacrifice themselves. It was simply too difficult to do so. Lin Feng had been cultivating the Grand Vow Art for many years after obtaining it. Originally, Lin Feng thought that he could rely on his own abilities. It was very likely that he could cultivate the Grand Vow Art. However, after such a long time, Lin Feng still hadn't managed to cultivate the Grand Vow Art. Lin Feng felt that the fundamental reason wasn't that he didn't have enough comprehension. It was that he couldn't sacrifice his own life for the myriad worlds. Lin Feng had too many responsibilities on his shoulders. He had to rescue his mother who was being suppressed. After his father Lin Baitian was plotted against, he was also under the demonic seed technique. The situation wasn't good. There were also the Lin family members who were kidnapped by the Undying family and sent to the main branch of the Undying family. Lin Feng needed to rescue these people. Lin Feng had so many responsibilities on his shoulders. He couldn't die. Therefore, Lin Feng couldn't abandon himself for the sake of the world. The Red World Fairy could do it. She didn't seem to have any worries. Moving forward, Goddess Nuwa could also do it. Goddess Nuwa's body became dimmer and dimmer. Facing the situation of the myriad worlds being destroyed, Goddess Nuwa chose to sacrifice herself to activate the Grand Vow Art, using this to save the myriad worlds. In the end, Goddess Nuwa's body completely turned into holy light. As for Mother Nuwa herself, she had completely vanished into thin air. The holy light that Goddess Nuwa turned into poured into the myriad worlds and endless space-time. It collided with the evil cloud. The evil cloud was defeated. A small number of the evil cloud escaped. As for the holy light that Goddess Nuwa had turned into, it had almost completely dissipated. Life should continue. Goddess Nuwa's final voice resounded in the starry world. Then, there was no longer any trace of Goddess Nuwa in this world. Goddess Nuwa died just like that. Lin Feng stood in the starry world and saw everything that had happened. He couldn't help but feel an incomparable sorrow in his heart. The great existence who created the myriad worlds, Goddess Nuwa, had died just like that. It made one's heart feel endless reluctance. But everything had already become reality. It was hard to change. That's... Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes lit up slightly. In the starry sky, he saw a ball of holy light. It seemed to be the holy light that Goddess Nuwa had turned into after her body dissipated. There was actually a ball of holy light that hadn't completely dissipated. However, the last ball of holy light was dissipating at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon, it would completely vanish into thin air. Lin Feng quickly flew over. By the time he flew over, the ball of holy light had basically completely dissipated. The final ball of holy light flew into Lin Feng's mind. The ball of holy light transformed into a rune. This caused Lin Feng to be extremely shocked. What rune is this? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He hurriedly used his divine will to inspect the rune. When he sensed the rune, Lin Feng was instantly shocked. It was actually a divine ability rune. This divine ability rune should have dissipated, but after Lin Feng appeared, the rune sensed Lin Feng's aura, and then... Chapter 3566. This is the divine ability rune of the Grand Wish Art? Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. It was actually the divine ability rune of the Grand Wish Art. This divine ability rune was very special. The content contained within was not a cultivation technique. Instead, it was a grand formation formed by divine abilities. After successfully cultivating a divine ability, it would form a divine ability grand formation. For example, there were thousands of divine ability grand formations in Lin Feng's Dantian. Those divine power grand arrays would operate inside the body as a kind of divine power grand array condensed from a core great Tao. Once a cultivator died, these divine ability grand formations would dissipate in an extremely short period of time. This was the first time Lin Feng had obtained a divine ability rune formed by a divine ability grand formation. From the looks of it, the ball of holy light Lin Feng saw earlier was very likely a divine ability grand formation left behind by Goddess Nuwa after her death. However, the divine ability grand formation was dissipating at an extremely fast speed. By the time Lin Feng arrived beside the ball of holy light, only the divine ability rune formed by the Grand Wish Art remained. These divine ability runes can be refined directly. Once I succeed, I'll be able to control the divine ability. In the past, I've been cultivating the Grand Great Wish Art for so long, but I failed. I never thought I'd be able to obtain the divine ability runes of the Grand Great Wish Art. Now that I've refined the divine ability runes, doesn't that mean I've successfully cultivated the Grand Great Wish Art? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. When he thought of this, he became extremely excited. A hard-working person, he would always receive the blessings of the heavens. Lin Feng was an extremely hard-working person. That was why he had received the blessings of the heavens. He originally thought that it would be impossible for him to successfully cultivate the Grand Wish Art. Now that he had obtained the divine ability rune formed by the Grand Wish Art, it was a pleasant surprise. Lin Feng refined the divine ability rune formed by the Grand Wish Art. In an instant, Lin Feng felt that he had a completely new understanding of the Grand Wish Art. This was a deep level of comprehension. As time passed, Lin Feng seemed to hear a vast voice resounding in his mind. I'm willing to exchange my body for the chance to end this battle. I'm willing to trade my body for the peace of the universe. When he heard the laughter, Lin Feng felt his body tremble. At this moment, he discovered that the great array formed by the Great Wish Art had completely fused with his body. The Great Wish Art condensed into a divine ability grand array, together with the other divine ability grand arrays, revolved around Lin Feng's sovereign Great Tao. Lin Feng was certain that he had fully grasped the Great Vow Art. This was truly not easy. To be able to grasp such an ultimate art was simply unbelievable. Lin Feng knew how terrifying the Great Wish Art was. If this art was used properly, it would definitely be heaven-defying. Lin Feng tried his best to calm himself down. Even though the Great Wish technique was incredible, it wasn't. Although the Great Vow Art was heaven-defying, he couldn't be arrogant. He should be down to earth. Lin Feng continued to comprehend the Great Tao. He was trying to comprehend the mysterious great fate art. He tried again and again. He failed again and again. It wasn't easy to comprehend the mysteries of the great fate art. Lin Feng opened his eyes. He couldn't help but frown slightly. The great fate art was truly too difficult to comprehend. He still didn't have a clue. Taoist Wuliang sat cross-legged not far away. Although that damned Taoist was in seclusion to comprehend the great Tao, his mouth was so wide open that it could fit a radish. He reckoned that immeasurable Taoist must have obtained something amazing. Therefore, at this moment, was that why he was so excited? Further away, the 9 cosmic coffin carriers and the Red World Fairy were all comprehending the great Tao. It was very quiet here. There was no one else but them. No one came to disturb them. Lin Feng closed his eyes again and continued to comprehend the great fate art. However, it still didn't work. He gained nothing. Since ancient times, there had been countless cultivators who wanted to comprehend the great fate art. However, the number of cultivators who could truly comprehend the great fate art could be counted on one hand. From this, it could be seen. How difficult was it to comprehend the great fate art? Lin Feng frowned. Was he really destined to not be able to obtain the great fate art? At this time, Lin Feng felt his body begin to heat up again. Smoke was coming out of his body. Lin Feng's skin turned charcoal-like. It was blood red. Lin Feng felt as if there was a power in his body that was about to awaken. He knew. It should be the fate bloodline that he inherited from his father or another mysterious bloodline. However, Lin Feng felt that there was a 70% chance that it was the fate bloodline that was about to awaken. Because, previously, Lin Feng's bloodline had shown the bloodline imprint of his father, Lin Beitian. All of this seemed to confirm that what was about to awaken in Lin Feng's body was actually the fate bloodline. Lin Feng tried his best to clear his mind. He didn't know if it was because the fate bloodline was about to awaken, but Lin Feng felt as if there was an extremely unfamiliar yet mysterious and great power flowing between heaven and earth. That power. It gave Lin Feng a very familiar feeling. The power of fate. It was the power of fate. Although Lin Feng had never cultivated the path of fate before. However, Lin Feng had seen the Red World Fairy use the great fate art, and he had seen it more than once. Because of that, Lin Feng remembered what kind of power the power of fate was. Lin Feng tried his best to find where the power of fate came from. He carefully sensed the power of fate drifting between heaven and earth. Finally, Lin Feng found a long river. That long river stretched across the starry sky world. That long river flowed endlessly. That long river seemed to have flowed from the ancient times. The end of that long river seemed to have crossed into the future. That long river. It was the legendary river of fate. A long river that ran through the past, present, and future. The fates of countless living beings were displayed in that long river. That long river was so extraordinary. I finally found the river of fate. Lin Feng was overjoyed. He flew toward the river of fate. Then he entered the river of fate. Rumor has it that people have past lives, present lives, and future lives. In the river of fate, one can see past lives and future lives. Is this true? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He didn't know if this was true or not, but this saying had been circulating in the world of cultivators for a long time. Of course, Lin Feng didn't intend to see past lives and future lives, because those rumors might not be true. So what if they were true? Lin Feng only looked at the present. He sat cross-legged in the river of fate, allowing the power of fate to wash over his body. Chapter 3567. There was no need to say more about the mysteries of the Great Fate technique. The number 1 magical ability of the 3000 Great Tao, if he could successfully cultivate it. It would definitely have an unimaginable effect on Lin Feng. Lin Feng was really envious when he saw the Red World Fairy use the Great Fate technique. Now, he also had the chance to comprehend the Great Fate technique. Time passed. Lin Feng felt like he had turned into a drop of water in the river of fate. He floated in the ancient starry sky world along with the river of fate. From the present to the future, from the future to the past, and from the past to the present. Just like that. It was a constant cycle. This was the power of fate. Everyone had a different fate. Lin Feng once again saw his own fate. Last time, he saw some things that were about to happen in his fate, including his parents' calamity, including his own fate, which was also incomparably miserable. Therefore, Lin Feng worked even harder. Only by grasping powerful strength could he change his fate. And this time, Lin Feng seemed to see some other possibilities. Everyone's fate wasn't set in stone, because the future was full of changes. The same was true for people's fate. It was full of changes, and there were many possibilities. And what Lin Feng needed to pursue was to control fate in his own hands, and not let fate control him. Of course, Lin Feng knew that it would be extremely difficult, but there was always a way to accomplish such a thing. So, at this time, what one needed to do was to work hard, and work harder. Only by working hard and surpassing oneself could one change their fate. Gradually, Lin Feng finally comprehended a rune. This was a rune related to the Great Fate technique. If there was one, there would be two. Not long after, Lin Feng comprehended the second rune. Then, there was the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth runes. Lin Feng comprehended more and more runes, and these runes combined to form a complete cultivation technique. This cultivation technique was the cultivation technique of the Great Fate technique. Lin Feng's face revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. He had finally comprehended the cultivation method of the Great Fate technique. Now, all he needed to do was master the Great Destiny art. Then, he would be able to rank first among the 3,000 Great Das. It was also going to be controlled by Lin Feng. Lin Feng had already cultivated 2,510 types of 3,000 Grand Dao. Now that he had obtained the Great Fate art, Lin Feng had obtained 2,511 types of 3,000 Grand Dao. There were still 489 types of the 3,000 Great Daos left, and the 3,000 Great Daos would be completely gathered. In the beginning, Lin Feng was already very satisfied with collecting 100 types of 3,000 Great Daos. Later, Lin Feng changed his target. He set a goal for himself to collect 300 types of 3,000 Great Daos before breaking through to the Emperor realm. Who would have thought that he had cultivated so many of the 3,000 Great Daos? It was as real as a dream. Back then, Lin Feng had never thought that such a day would come. Now, Lin Feng was more and more convinced that he could collect all 3,000 types of Great Dao. After cultivating 3,000 types of Great Dao and breaking through to the Emperor realm, he would definitely be incomparably heaven-defying. Lin Feng's bloodline was powerful. In addition, he had cultivated so many powerful abilities. If he broke through to the Emperor realm with 3,000 types of Great Dao as the foundation, then Lin Feng's talent and potential might surpass the Red World Fairies. This was because Lin Feng had an advantage in terms of age. The Red World Fairy was already more than 4,000 years old when she broke through to the Emperor realm. Lin Feng was only more than 100 years old now. Breaking through under the same conditions, naturally, the younger one was, the greater their potential in the future. Rumble. Suddenly, a series of loud sounds alarmed Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang. It also alarmed the Red World Fairy and the 9 great coffin carriers in the distance. They opened their eyes and found that the door of eternal life was becoming more and more illusory. Could it be that the stone door isn't the real door of eternal life, but is actually just an imprint of the door of eternal life? Lin Feng looked at the increasingly illusory door of eternal life and couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. The real door of eternal life naturally couldn't be an illusory form. It was a real existence. However, the one in front of him was obviously an imprint. It was just that the previous one was too real. Therefore, he couldn't help but feel that the stone door was the real door of eternal life. Lin Feng's heart was like a monstrous wave that surged to the sky, because the imprint of the door of eternal life was so extraordinary that it helped him comprehend the Great Fate technique. Then, how extraordinary would the real door of eternal life be? This was simply unimaginable. Not long after, the illusory imprint of the door of eternal life disappeared without a trace. Why is it like this? The 9 evil dragons' roars shook the sky. They were extremely unwilling to accept this. But soon, the eyes of this starry sky coffin carrier became confused. This period of time was too short. Nothing could help him break the fate that enveloped him. The other coffin carriers' expressions were very ugly. Very soon, these people lost themselves again. How did they become coffin carriers? Lin Feng was very puzzled and couldn't help but ask. Such powerful existences had become coffin carriers. It was as if they had been cursed. Lin Feng was very puzzled. Taoist Wu Liang said, "There are too many unknowns and mysteries in this world." Lin Feng fell silent. It was indeed as Taoist Wu Liang said. There were too many things in this world that were destined to be a mystery to the people of the world. Lin Feng really wanted to open those ancient stone coffins to see if the first ancestor of the sovereign emperor clan and other terrifying existences were really buried in them. However, Lin Feng didn't rashly go forward. If he really dared to go forward, he would definitely be attacked by those coffin carriers. For now, Lin Feng couldn't fight against those coffin carriers. Moreover, Lin Feng still didn't quite believe that those great existences were buried in the stone coffins. Lin Feng had a strange feeling in his heart. He had a feeling. Perhaps, the first ancestor of the sovereign emperor clan seemed to still be alive in this world. This feeling was very strange. Lin Feng didn't know why such a thought would appear in his heart. However, the feeling was very strong. Perhaps subconsciously, Lin Feng didn't want to believe that the first ancestor of the sovereign emperor clan had perished. He also didn't want to believe that Hong Ming, Taoist Luya, and other existences had perished. Given their strength, was there anyone in this world who could kill them? Rumble. A loud sound shook the sky. The 9 coffin carriers who had lost themselves again pulled the ancient stone coffin and stepped out of Mount Pantheon. The ancient stone crushed the void. Chapter 3568. The 9 coffin carriers pulled the ancient coffin out of Mount Pantheon. Many cultivators saw this scene. They're out. They're out. The cultivators on Mount Pantheon and outside of Mount Pantheon cried out in alarm. Seeing the 9 coffin carriers come out of Mount Pantheon, those cultivators knew that if there was a heaven-defying opportunity on Mount Pantheon, it would have been taken by these existences who climbed up Mount Pantheon. Many experts' eyes flashed, considering whether or not to make a move against the 9 coffin carriers. When they thought of the terror of the 9 coffin carriers, they couldn't help but show a serious and fearful expression. The idea of making a move against the 9 coffin carriers also gradually faded away. Everyone knew just how powerful and terrifying the 9 great starry skies coffin carriers were. Who would dare to provoke these 9 existences? If one were to provoke the 9 supremes, only death would await them. At this time, many people thought of Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist. The Red World Fairy was unfathomable, and they didn't dare to provoke her. But Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist weren't in the eyes of many forces. In their view, Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist were nothing to fear. Dealing with Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist was a simple matter. Immortal Venerable Hong Chun stood in the void, pondering over something. He originally planned to ask Immortal Venerable Red Dust about the 9 cosmic coffin carriers. Lin Feng felt that the Red World Fairy should know about the 9 coffin carriers. He might even know who the living beings buried in the 9 stone coffins were. But when Lin Feng walked towards the Red World Fairy, the Red World Fairy's body became illusory. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared without a trace. Lin Feng once felt that he was very close to the Red World Fairy. But now, he felt that the distance between him and the Red World Fairy seemed to be getting farther and farther. This woman should be going to the Forbidden God realm, right? What a perverted person. The immeasurable Taoist couldn't help but mutter. Bang! At this time, the immeasurable Taoist's body moved horizontally. Crack, crack. The sound of bones cracking was heard. Who knew how many bones in the immeasurable Taoist's body broke? The immeasurable Taoist's face was as white as paper. Wah! He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. F***CK. The immeasurable Taoist, and didn't continue attacking immeasurable Taoist. Furthermore, the other party clearly only wanted to teach the immeasurable Taoist a lesson. They didn't want to take his life. Or else, the immeasurable Taoist had probably already died without a proper burial ground. Lin Feng guessed that Hong Chun had done it. Although the Red World Fairy had already left, She had just left and shouldn't have gone too far. With the Red World Fairy's powerful cultivation, to be able to hear the words of the immeasurable Taoist didn't seem to be something inconceivable. Lin Feng said with a smile, "It's time to take care of your mouth. Trouble comes from the mouth." The immeasurable Taoist got up from the ground, then glared at Lin Feng fiercely and said, "Immeasurable heavenly sovereign, your uncle. I'm already half dead, yet you're still laughing. You're really careless when it comes to making friends." Lin Feng said, "Aren't you still alive? You know what? I've always wanted to collect your corpse. In that case, all the treasures on your body will be mine. But don't worry, I'll definitely find a place with good feng shui for you. Then, every 1st and 15th day of the month, I'll burn some paper money for you." The immeasurable Taoist couldn't help but roll his eyes and said, "Don't worry, this Taoist is a cat. I have 9 lives. Even if you die, this Taoist won't die." Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist had a close friendship, but they were also a pair of bad friends. If there was a chance, they would make fun of each other. This could be considered a small love in life. It could add some fun to a tense and exciting life. Lin Feng didn't continue to bicker with the immeasurable Taoist. He said, "Although there are still many opportunities, I don't plan to stay here any longer. If I continue to stay here, I will inevitably encounter a great calamity." The reason why Lin Feng said this was because he knew that those powerful forces would definitely not let him and the immeasurable Taoist go. Moreover, Lin Feng felt that the powerful strength in his body was rapidly declining. The destiny bloodline seemed to be about to awaken, but unfortunately, it failed in the end. The terrifying power in his body might have originated from the destiny bloodline. Lin Feng knew that he had to leave this place as soon as possible. Once the powerful force in his body completely disappeared, it would definitely be very dangerous. But now, it was different. Right now, the powerful force had only just begun to dissipate. Lin Feng could use the powerful force in his body to break out of the encirclement with the immeasurable Taoist. The immeasurable Taoist said, "All right, then let's leave this place quickly. Then, we'll go to the nest of the myriad races together." Lin Feng nodded. With a wave of his hand, a powerful magic power surged out and directly wrapped around the immeasurable Taoist. Then, Lin Feng quickly flew out of Mount Pantheon. "Look, that human brat and that Taoist are flying out too." Many people were paying attention to the situation above. When they saw Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist flying out from the peak of Mount Pantheon, a cultivator immediately shouted, "Kill them!" Many experts' voices were indifferent. They wanted to kill Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One figure after another flew out. There were cultivators at the Sage Emperor level who attacked. And there was more than one of them. In a short period of time, the power in Lin Feng's body had been severely depleted. This made Lin Feng's heart sink. Once he was trapped, the situation would naturally be extremely bad. Therefore, Lin Feng did not plan to fight these experts head-on. He used the Tao of Space. With Lin Feng as the center, the surrounding space actually started to distort. Looking carefully, layers upon layers of space began to appear in the distorted space. "Quickly seal the space," an expert shouted. Cultivators who were proficient in formations all used the spatial sealing technique. They wanted to seal the space, but these people's attainments in the Tao of Space could not be compared to Lin Feng, who had obtained the inheritance of the great god of space. The space around Lin Feng overlapped a total of 36 times. Then, it shattered the expert sealing technique. When the void returned to normal, Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist had already disappeared without a trace. These two must have obtained something heaven-defying from the peak of Mount Pantheon. Issue a cosmic bounty for these two. We must find them. All right, then let us issue a cosmic bounty together. Chapter 3569. The Xinyuan ancient starry sky ship quickly flew through the starry sky world. Lin Feng and immeasurable Taoist were cultivating inside the Xinyuan ancient starry sky ship. Inside the Xinyuan ancient starry sky ship were the 4 great emperors that Lin Feng had edified. They were more than enough to deal with many situations. At this moment, Lin Feng was comprehending the Great Fate technique. Although he had obtained the cultivation method of the Great Destiny skill, it was naturally not an easy task to successfully cultivate the Great Destiny skill. Lin Feng was very clear about this point. Of course, Lin Feng's perception was very high. In addition, he had seen the Red World Fairy use the Great Fate technique before. In addition, the Lin mantra could also help Lin Feng comprehend the Tao. Therefore, although the Great Fate technique was very difficult to cultivate, it didn't mean that it was impossible to successfully cultivate it. Under Lin Feng's unremitting efforts, he gradually comprehended the mysteries of the Great Fate technique. Of course, the journey wasn't peaceful. There were many big forces in the starry sky world searching for Lin Feng and immeasurable Taoist. Therefore, many people had their eyes on Lin Feng's Xinyuan ancient starry sky ship. Before Lin Feng went into seclusion, he had ordered the 4 great emperors to kill anyone who wanted to board the Xinyuan ancient starry sky ship. Lin Feng was just that overbearing. Therefore, many battles broke out along the way. Fortunately, the 4 great emperors had strong cultivation, and the Xinyuan ancient starry sky ship itself was powerful enough. Therefore, no one could stop Lin Feng's Xinyuan ancient starry sky ship. This time, the destination of the Xinyuan ancient starry sky ship was the Heavenly Sage Great World. Heavenly Sage Great World, the headquarters of the myriad races. The cultivators of the myriad races couldn't believe that Lin Feng would actually go to their headquarters. Lin Feng intended to go to the myriad races cemetery with immeasurable Taoists to do some archaeological research. He wondered if there were any inheritances of the 3,000 grand Taoists in those ancient tombs. There were many forces in the myriad races. Lin Feng wanted to collect all 3,000 grand Taoists in the Heavenly Sage Great World. Then, he would break through to the Emperor realm in one go. This wasn't an extravagant hope. Maybe he could really do it. In the blink of an eye, a year and a half had passed. Lin Feng was cultivating in the time and space that he had created. 1.5 years had passed in the outside world, but 7.5 years had passed in the time-space. Lin Feng spent 7.5 years comprehending the Great Fate technique. Finally, Lin Feng comprehended some of the mysteries of the Great Fate art. In Lin Feng's Dantian, the Great Fate art formed a God art array. The divine ability array formed by the Great Destiny art was about to become the center of all divine abilities. Even Lin Feng's path of supremacy was like this. As expected of the most powerful Great Tao among the 3,000 Great Taoists, to think that he would be so domineering. This was truly shocking. All of Lin Feng's Taoists revolved around his Tao of supremacy. The Tao of supremacy was Lin Feng's most important Tao. Even the Great Fate art wasn't as important to Lin Feng as the Tao of supremacy. Thus, Lin Feng naturally wouldn't let the Great Fate art suppress the Tao of supremacy. He slightly suppressed the Great Destiny technique and placed the Great Destiny technique's formation next to the path of supremacy. He still let the Tao of supremacy become the core of all Taoists. After cultivating the Great Fate art, Lin Feng could finally let out a sigh of relief. Lin Feng came out of seclusion. The immeasurable Taoist had come out half a month ago. Lin Feng didn't know if the damned Taoist had also comprehended the Great Fate art, but he didn't ask him. The immeasurable Taoist also didn't ask Lin Feng what divine ability he had comprehended. Everyone had their own fortuitous encounters. Cultivation was still dependent on oneself, blindly relying on others. It would only harm oneself. Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist both understood this principle. How much longer until we reach the Heavenly Sage Great World? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. Based on the Xuanyuan's speed, we should reach the Heavenly Sage Great World in about a month, said the immeasurable Taoist. Lin Feng nodded and said, I'm very curious. What kind of world is the Heavenly Sage Great World? The Heavenly Sage Great World is boundless. In fact, the cultivators of the myriad races that invaded the 9 prefectures back then were only a portion of the forces in the Heavenly Sage Great World. There are simply too many races in the Heavenly Sage Great World. Not all of them like to cross the endless starry sky and conquer the 9 prefectures. The reason the invaders dared to do so was because they had the support of the 5 patriarchs. It was said that the 5 patriarchs' lifespans were about to reach the end, so they urgently needed to occupy the 9 prefectures and steal the power of the 9 prefectures to help them break through. However, in the end, the 5 patriarchs died prematurely, said the immeasurable Taoist. Lin Feng asked, "What's the current situation in the heavenly sage great world?" The immeasurable Taoist said, "The heavenly sage great world has never been peaceful. Wars break out frequently, and the various forces are at odds with each other. Moreover, ever since the 5 patriarchs died, the heavenly sage great world has become even more chaotic. In the past, the 5 patriarchs belonged to several of the strongest forces in the heavenly sage great world. These forces relied on the support of emperor-level experts to wantonly plunder territory. The other forces did not dare to voice their anger. Now that the 5 patriarchs have died, the situation has changed. The other forces no longer fear the 5 patriarchs, so wars break out frequently between them." Lin Feng chuckled. "When dogs bite each other, all they get is a mouthful of fur," said the immeasurable Taoist. "That's a very appropriate analogy." Lin Feng continued, "There are so many races in the heavenly sage great world. Shouldn't there be many alliances?" The immeasurable Taoist nodded. "That's right. There are indeed many alliances in the heavenly sage great world. However, there are a total of 3 largest alliances." "Oh? Which 3? Asked Lin Feng curiously. The immeasurable Taoist said, "The first is the Holy War Alliance. Originally, it was the strongest force in the heavenly sage great world because the 5 great emperor-level old ancestors were all experts in the Holy War Alliance. The Holy War Alliance also included many famous royal families of the myriad races. For example, the Sacred God Clan, Ancient God Clan, and Immortal God Clan all belonged to the Holy War Alliance. In addition, there were also the Heavenly Devil Clan, Golden Saint Lion Clan, Fallen Angel Clan, Nine-Headed Insect Clan, and other forces that belonged to the Holy War Alliance." Lin Feng could not help but frown. These forces seemed to be the main forces that invaded the 9 prefectures. The immeasurable Taoist said, "That's right. These forces are indeed the main forces that invaded the 9 prefectures. Back when the 5 patriarchs were still alive, the Holy War Alliance was the strongest force. They even occupied more than half of the heavenly sage great world's territory. From this, one can see how powerful the Holy War Alliance was. The forces that invaded the 9 prefectures were basically all under the Holy War Alliance." Chapter 3570. Taoist Wuliang said, "There are 2 other alliances. One is the Fiendish Demon Alliance. The other is the Immortal Alliance. The Demon and Devil Alliance also has the royal families of the myriad races. For example, the Golden Dragon Tribe, Fire Dragon Tribe, Absolute Beginning Demon Tribe, Desolation Devil Tribe, and other forces are all royal families of the myriad races. They have Saint Emperors in their ranks. They aren't much weaker than the Saint God Clan, Ancient God Clan, and other royal families of the myriad races. Originally, they weren't as strong as the Saint God Clan, Ancient God Clan, and other royal families of the myriad races because they didn't have Emperor Realm experts in their ranks. Now that the Emperor Realm experts of the Sacred War Alliance have fallen, the royal families of the Demon and Devil Alliance naturally won't fear the Sacred War Alliance anymore. The Immortal Alliance is more complicated. It has the royal families of the myriad races as well as many powerful rogue cultivators. There are even some human factions." "Human factions?" Lin Feng was shocked. Taoist Wuliang said, "There are quite a few humans in Heavenly Sage Great World, but their status is relatively low. However, there are still some human experts in Heavenly Sage Great World. Currently, the Immortal Alliance and Sacred War Alliance have been having conflicts and even wars. It is said that the human experts in the Immortal Alliance have played a key role." Lin Feng couldn't help but say, "It seems that there are important human figures in the Immortal Alliance." Taoist Wuliang nodded. "That's right. I heard that there are 3 human experts in the Immortal Alliance. Their strength is unfathomable. Moreover, the identities of these 3 people are very mysterious. Outsiders don't know their real names. They only know their titles. The first is called Taoist Wenxian. It is said that he is a Taoist expert. The second is called Fairy Yuling. The third is called Celestial Sovereign Tao Sage. You have been in Heavenly Sage Great World for a while. Have you seen these three? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. Taoist Wuliang grinned and said, You don't say. I have indeed seen one of them. It is the woman called Fairy Yuling. She is so beautiful that she is like a painting. It is unforgettable. Lin Feng almost kicked the wretched Taoist Wuliang when he saw him. Taoist Wuliang patted Lin Feng's shoulder and said, Brother, don't look at me like that. If you see that woman, you won't be able to forget her. Lin Feng could not help but roll his eyes. He asked, What's the situation with the Demon Alliance? Right now, the Immortal Gods Alliance and the Sacred War Alliance are at war with each other, while the Demon Alliance is just watching from the sidelines. Taoist Wuliang said. Lin Feng could not help but frown slightly. Are the other two factions just going to sit on the mountain and watch the two tigers fight? Taoist Wuliang said, The Sacred War Alliance doesn't want a war, but the Immortal Gods Alliance doesn't agree. The three human experts of the Immortal Gods Alliance seem to have a lot of say, so they want to inflict a heavy blow on the Sacred War Alliance at this moment. However, I reckon that the war is about to end. After all, the Immortal Gods Alliance is not a faction led by the three human experts. If the Sacred War Alliance is willing to take a few pieces of meat, the other leaders of the Immortal Gods Alliance will probably step forward to stop the war from continuing. Of course, this is only one of the reasons. The second reason is that the Immortal Gods Alliance doesn't want the Demon Alliance to reap the benefits without doing anything. Lin Feng said, That's true. The bigger the conflict, the better. That will be beneficial to our operation. Taoist Wuliang grinned and said, The three alliances have also built 3 different cemeteries to bury the experts of the 3 factions. The Myriad Races Cemetery that we're going to visit is the Sacred War Alliance's Myriad Races Cemetery. Lin Feng said, When the time comes, we'll definitely dig up all those ancient tombs. It'll be best if we can anger the cultivators of the Sacred War Alliance to death. Taoist Wuliang seemed to have imagined this scene in his mind, and he could not help but reveal a wretched smile. Half a month later, Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang witnessed a huge battle in the Starry Sky world. A fleet of merchant ships was besieged by space bandits. The fleet of merchant ships was obviously no match for the space bandits. The space bandits rushed into the merchant ships, killing and looting them. If they saw a beautiful female cultivator, they would directly capture her. Those beautiful female cultivators naturally did not have a good ending. This situation was all too common in the Starry Sky world. After being in the Starry Sky world for so long, Lin Feng had already gotten used to it. Lin Feng had no interest in that battle. As long as it doesn't affect him, it's fine. At this time, over a dozen cultivators rushed out of a merchant ship. These cultivators had decent cultivation and were holding precious treasures. After 7 to 8 of them died, they managed to break out of the encirclement. In the end, there were only 5 people left. A large number of space bandits chased after those 5 cultivators. Those 5 cultivators. A pair of twin female cultivators. They were tall and slender, with long, straight, jade-like legs. Their faces were exquisite and beautiful. It's just that their complexions were a bit pale. There was also a beautiful woman. Her voluptuous figure was extremely alluring. The 4th person was a female cultivator with an alluring figure. Lin Feng actually knew this female cultivator. This female cultivator was Yang Lan from the Yang family of the Destruction Great World, Xinming City. This Yang Lan-er's appearance was somewhat similar to Hua Yihan's. However, their personalities were too different. This Yang Lan-er was arrogant. Lin Feng didn't really like this woman. Of course, Lin Feng didn't really like the rest of the Yang family either. Because these people from the Yang family, from the patriarch Yang Tian, 1 to the juniors below, were all snobbish. Back then, they also looked down on Lin Feng. It's just that Lin Feng didn't take the contempt of such a small group of people to heart. Later on, the Yang family encountered a crisis and faced the danger of being exterminated. Yang Lan-er was almost captured by Ling Shuzi to become a cultivation vessel. Lin Feng only helped the Yang family because of Yang Kuan. If it wasn't for Yang Kuan, Lin Feng couldn't be bothered with the Yang family. The 5th person was a male cultivator. He looked quite young. These people were in a very sorry state, being chased by a group of interstellar bandits. When they saw the Xinyuan ancient ship, They actually flew towards Lin Feng's ship. Taoist Wuliang said, "These guys are all selfish people. They don't even consider the feelings of others. If they want to board someone else's ancient ship, they might bring disaster to that person." Lin Feng said, "There are too many selfish people in the world of cultivators. But since the other party has 4 top-grade beauties, there's no harm in being a little selfish. Beauties should be forgiven if they do something wrong. This is the privilege of beauties." Taoist Wuliang rolled his eyes and said, "I finally know how you managed to get so many goddesses. This Taoist really admires you. From the looks of it, you seem to want to take these people in. Could it be that you're interested in those beauties?" "I'm just looking at them with admiration. Don't get the wrong idea," Lin Feng said. He removed the Xinyuan ancient ship's defensive restrictions and allowed the 5 people to fly in. Then, the ancient ship jumped into the void and instantly left the starry sky. Chapter 3571. Thank you for saving us. The 5 of them stood outside the cabin and thanked him. "It's just a small matter. You can leave on your own later," Lin Feng said. He didn't show up to save these people because Lin Feng was a man who had tender feelings for the fair sex. He didn't want to see the 4 great beauties fall into the hands of those space bandits. Lin Feng didn't have any other thoughts about the 4 great beauties, so he didn't need to show up to meet these people. However, Lin Feng didn't expect young Laner to recognize his voice. After Lin Feng said that, young Laner's eyes lit up and she said, "Lin Gongzi, is that you?" Lin Feng frowned slightly. He wasn't familiar with young Laner. They hadn't seen each other for so long, but this woman could still recognize his voice. Young Laner had a proud temperament and was a bit snobbish. Therefore, Lin Feng didn't want to have too much to do with her. Seeing Lin Feng's expression, Taoist Wuliang knew that Lin Feng didn't want to have too much contact with this female cultivator. Apart from being close friends, Taoist Wuliang and Lin Feng were also bad friends. Therefore, Taoist Wuliang naturally wanted to see Lin Feng's embarrassment. The starry sky world was too boring. This guy also wanted to add some fun. Before Lin Feng could speak, Taoist Wuliang said, "That's right, little beauty. Your lover, Lin Feng, is here. Hurry up and come in to meet your lover." "Lover?" Young Laner was stunned. Then her pretty face turned slightly red. She knew how powerful Lin Feng was, so after hearing Taoist Wuliang's words, she wasn't angry. Instead, she was happy. As for young Laner's 4 companions, they all had strange expressions. First, they didn't know that young Laner had a lover. Although there were many people pursuing young Laner, she didn't seem to have agreed to anyone. Could it be that she was too good at keeping it a secret, so they were also fooled by young Laner? Secondly, in the vast starry sky world, the person who saved them was someone young Lan knew. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? It seemed like this was fate, right? Damn Taoist. What nonsense are you talking about? Lin Feng couldn't help but kick immeasurable Taoist. He wanted to kick Taoist Wuliang out of the cabin. This damn Taoist was already prepared. He jumped back and dodged Lin Feng's kick. And at this moment, young Lan on the other hand, entered the cabin. The other 4. He followed young Lan into the cabin. "Lin Gongzi, I didn't expect that we would meet here." After seeing Lin Feng, young Lan was very happy. Lin Feng didn't like young Lan that much, but young Lan was a top-grade beauty after all. It was very pleasing to the eye. Don't hit a smiling person. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't not give young Lan face at this time, so he nodded at young Lan Lan, who is this young master?" The beautiful woman couldn't help but ask. Reporting to senior sister, "This young master is the Lin Feng that junior sister mentioned to senior sister before, Lin Gongzi," young Lan said. Everyone suddenly revealed an extremely shocked expression. They came from the destruction starfield. Therefore, they knew very well what happened in the destruction starfield. Lin Feng fought with Ling Shuzi. These people naturally knew very well. So when they found out about Lin Feng's identity, everyone was extremely shocked. The eyes of the beautiful woman and the twin sisters suddenly lit up. These 3 women were all top-grade beauties no less than young Lan They were really quite pleasing to the eye. Even Lin Feng couldn't help but take another look at the 3 beauties. So it's Lin Gongzi. I'm sorry for not recognizing you. Back then, Lin Gongzi solved the Yang family's crisis. I've heard about this matter. Thank you for helping back then, Lin Gongzi. Otherwise, my junior sister would have been in great trouble, the beautiful woman said. Her voice was very charming, soft and soft. Hearing her voice, one's bones seemed to be about to melt. What a vixen! Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Of course, he wouldn't say this out loud. Lin Feng smiled faintly and said, Fairy, you don't have to be so polite. The beautiful woman said with a sweet smile, Look, we've talked for so long, and I actually forgot to introduce myself. I'm Hua Shishir, Yang Lan senior sister, and my master is Fairy Yuan Fa. These two are my junior sisters. The one on the left is the elder sister, called Shang Waning, and the one on the right is the younger sister, called Shang Wanling. Greetings, Lin Gongzi. The sisters hurriedly bowed to Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled and said, Fairies, you're too polite. The sisters were really beautiful up close. It was as if there were no flaws on their bodies. Moreover, they looked almost exactly the same. One couldn't help but sigh at the greatness of the Creator. He was actually able to create such a perfect pair. The beautiful woman continued, This is the disciple of my master's old friend, Emperor Yuan Shu. His name is Zhang Juling. Zhang Juling cupped his fists and greeted Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded. Only then did Zhang Juling stand up. Lin Feng said, This place is extremely far from the starfield of destruction. How did you come here? The beautiful woman said, We received master's orders to follow the previous merchant fleet to Heavenly Sage Great World to pay a visit to an old friend of master's. I see. Lin Feng nodded. Yang Lan'er said, This is the starfield route to Heavenly Sage Great World. Is Lin Gongzi also heading to Heavenly Sage Great World? Lin Feng nodded and said, That's right. We're heading to Heavenly Sage Great World. Then, can we follow Lin Gongzi to Heavenly Sage Great World? Yang Lan'er asked nervously. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He didn't have a good impression of Yang Lan'er, so he wasn't willing to bring them to Heavenly Sage Great World. At that moment, the beautiful woman said, Lin Gongzi, the starfield is filled with danger. If we don't have Lin Gongzi's protection, we'll definitely be in great danger. Can Lin Gongzi really bear to see us in danger in the starfield? The beautiful woman looked as if she was about to cry. Her charm was boundless. Lin Feng had always been a man who had tender feelings for the fairer sex. This was one of the flaws in Lin Feng's character. After hearing the beautiful woman's words, he couldn't help but soften. He nodded and said, All right, you can all stay here. Thank you, Lin Gongzi. The five of them were overjoyed. Lin Feng arranged accommodations for them. Then, everyone returned to their own rooms to rest. Lin Feng also returned to his room. Dong dong dong. Not long after, someone knocked on the door. Lin Feng opened the door and saw the beautiful woman standing outside. She was charming and had a peerless face. She was so beautiful that it was suffocating. Chapter 3572. It's Flower Fairy. May I know why Flower Fairy is here? Lin Feng was surprised. Hua Shishir was a beautiful woman with a hot body. Although these four beauties each had their own merits. Moreover, each of them was beautiful. One could not help but have a special thought. But in reality, Lin Feng's self-control was very strong. Facing the four beauties, Lin Feng's heart was calm. He did not have any other thoughts. Hua Shishir smiled and said, Why? Can't you come to Lin Gongzi's place if you have nothing to do? When Hua Shishir spoke, it was unknown if it was intentional or not. Her body deliberately leaned towards Lin Feng, a tempting fragrance. It floated over from Hua Shishir's body. It smelled really good. Even though Lin Feng had seen all kinds of beauties, facing such a peerless beauty like Hua Shishir, he could not help but feel his heart stirring. At this moment, Lin Feng realized that he had overestimated his self-control. Lin Feng smiled and said, Fairy has misunderstood. I naturally welcome you here anytime. Everyone likes beautiful things and beautiful people. I am no exception. Fairy is as beautiful as a fairy. Even if you do nothing, just looking at your peerless face is also a pleasure in China. Hua Shishir looked at Lin Feng with a gaze full of emotions and said, "Then, does young master want to do something?" Lin Feng smiled and said, "That depends on what you want me to do. I am very happy to help. At the very least, you have to enter the room first before you can consider other things, right?" Hua Shishir said, "Fairy, please come in." Lin Feng stepped aside and let Hua Shishir enter his room. After that, Lin Feng closed the door. Lin Feng lived on the 6th floor of the ancient starship Xianyuan. Immeasurable Taoists lived on the 5th floor. The rest lived on the 3rd floor. At the corner of the 6th floor, a figure was hiding. It was Yang Lan. She witnessed with her own eyes that Hua Shi came to Lin Feng. A conversation with Lin Feng. Yang Lan's expression was obviously not good. His expression was gloomy. Perhaps in Yang Lan's opinion, her eldest senior sister was here to snatch her man. In the room, Hua Shi picked up her pace. He observed the room. Then he said, "I didn't expect young master's room to be so neat and tidy." Lin Feng asked calmly, "Could it be that you've been to another man's room?" Hua Shishir said, "My brother's. The room has always been a mess." "I see." Lin Feng smiled. "Young master, your relationship with the myriad races is so tense. Why did you go to the heavenly sage great world?" Hua Shishir asked curiously. Lin Feng said, "The tension with the other races is only with the forces of the Holy War Alliance. It has nothing to do with most of the forces of the other races. Therefore, I'm not worried about anything. As for going to the heavenly sage great world this time, it's because I have some personal matters to deal with." "Personal matters? Is it convenient for you to reveal some to me?" Hua Shishir came to Lin Feng's side, her body almost sticking to Lin Feng's body. Her breath was like an orchid. "This woman is really passionate." Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Hua Shishir's personality was indeed like this. Passionate like fire, charming and flirtatious. After seeing Lin Feng, Hua Shishir saw that Lin Feng was so handsome and confident. In addition, he was already so powerful at such a young age. She couldn't help but have some thoughts in her heart. This was because Hua Shishir knew that no matter how strong a woman was, she should still find a man to rely on. Moreover, she wasn't particularly strong herself. After experiencing the dangerous scene in the starry sky world, Hua Shishir felt that it was extremely important to find someone to rely on. At this moment, Lin Feng appeared in front of Hua Shishir. Hua Shishir felt that no matter how she looked at Lin Feng, he was the best candidate. Lin Feng reached out and hugged Hua Shishir's willowy waist. With a beauty in his arms, it was truly a great joy in life. "If Fairy wants to know, we can talk for a long time tonight," Lin Feng said with a smile. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. "Lin Gongzi, are you there?" Yang Lan's voice came in. "It's Junior sister. It seems that today is not the right time. Next time, I will come and have a chat with you," Hua Shishir said softly. The words, "chat with you all night," were used vividly at this moment. Lin Feng nodded. He let go of Hua Shishir. He said, "Fairy, is there something you need? I've prepared some bejeweled nectar. I hope you like it." Yang Lan said, "Come in." Lin Feng said. Yang Lan pushed the door open and entered. After entering, seeing Hua Shishir, Yang Lan pretended to be surprised. She said, "I didn't expect senior sister to be here with Lin Gongzi." Hua Shishir said, "I came to ask Lin Gongzi for some advice. Now that I'm done, I won't disturb Lin Gongzi." Hua Shishir bowed to Lin Feng. "Fairy, you don't have to be so polite," Lin Feng said. Hua Shi stood up, then threw a coquettish glance at Lin Feng before turning to leave. "Vixen." Yang Lan couldn't help but snort coldly in her heart. After Hua Shi left, Yang Lan placed the tray in her hand on the table and said, "Young master, this is what Lan obtained from a secret realm. It seems to be brewed and drunk by immortals." "Thank you, Fairy. Fairy is so considerate," Lin Feng said. Young master's great kindness to Lan is something that Lan can never repay in her lifetime. No matter what, Lan is willing to do it for young master, Yang Lan said. Now Yang Lan and the Yang Lan that Lin Feng met before seemed to be two completely different people. The original Yang Lan was arrogant. Now Yang Lan was as obedient as a kitten. It really made Lin Feng extremely surprised. He didn't know if Yang Lan's current personality was deliberately displayed in front of him, or had she really changed. Fairy, don't take what happened back then to heart. It's all in the past, Lin Feng said. Yang Lan bit her lips. She could feel the alienation from Lin Feng. Yang Lan naturally knew the reason for this. She wanted to regain some position in Lin Feng's heart. Yang Lan said, "Young master, in the past, Lan obtained something, but I haven't been able to comprehend its secret. It seems that Lan and this thing are not destined to be together. This thing might be destined to be with young master. Please accept it." Her voice fell. Yang Lan took out an item. Chapter 3573. The thing that young Laner took out was a Swanee jade carving. There was actually a mysterious iron ball in the mouth of this Swanee jade carving. Lin Feng carefully observed the iron ball and immediately found that the iron ball was densely covered with runes. It was very mysterious, which surprised Lin Feng. Whether it was the mysterious jade carving or the mysterious iron ball, they both seemed to have an extraordinary origin. And when these two things were combined together, it was even more amazing. Seeing that Lin Feng seemed to like this treasure, young Laner was immediately very happy. She said, "Young master, have a good rest. Laner won't disturb you any longer." "Good. Fairy, you should also go back and rest early," Lin Feng said, and his tone softened a lot. It didn't matter if young Laner's personality had really changed, or if she was pretending. Now, this kind of kitten-like obedient personality was still quite likable. Lin Feng's perception of young Laner had also changed a little. In addition, the treasure that young Laner took out was really extraordinary. The principle of being soft-hearted after receiving a gift from others was eternal and unchanging. Therefore, Lin Feng's attitude towards young Laner also changed a little. "Then Laner will take her leave." Young Laner bowed to Lin Feng. Then, she left Lin Feng's room. After young Laner left, Lin Feng carefully studied the Swanee jade carving and the mysterious iron ball. He tried to take the iron ball off, but he found it was impossible to take it off. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. The iron ball seemed to have been completely connected with the Swanee jade carving. Could it be that this treasure is... At this time, the Demon Lord's voice suddenly resounded in Lin Feng's mind. When he heard the Demon Lord's voice, Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. Could it be that the Demon Lord knew about this treasure? The current Demon Lord was becoming more and more mysterious. But the only thing that hadn't changed was that his relationship with Lin Feng hadn't changed. Lin Feng was still the same Lin Feng from when he first met the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord was also the Demon Lord from back then. Lin Feng asked, "Demon Lord, do you recognize this item?" The Demon Lord said, "In the past, I heard that there was a mysterious spy and jade carving circulating in the Undying Realm. It is said that the jade carving hides a great secret. However, I have never seen that jade carving at that time. So I don't know if this jade carving in front of me is the same jade carving as the one in the Undying Realm." Lin Feng continued to ask, "Do you know the secret hidden in the jade carving?" The Demon Lord shook his head and said, "I don't know about that. However, if it's really the same jade carving, then it's too extraordinary." Back then, the jade carving that appeared in the Undying Realm caused a huge uproar. After hearing the Demon Lord's words, Lin Feng became even more curious about the jade carving in front of him. Was it the same jade carving that appeared in the Undying Realm? What secret was hidden in this jade carving? Lin Feng carefully studied the jade carving. He first wanted to use his mana to refine the jade carving. However, after several attempts, he failed. Then, Lin Feng tried to use a drop of blood to refine it, but it still ended in failure. Unable to refine it? No wonder Yang Lan said that she had this treasure for a long time, but was unable to find out the secret hidden in it. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. He didn't give up and continued to search for the secret of this treasure. This time, Lin Feng tried to use his divine sense to invade this treasure and then search for the secret of this treasure. However, he still failed. The jade carving blocked Lin Feng's divine sense from entering it. "It's really strange." Lin Feng frowned. In the next few days, Lin Feng was studying the jade carving, but he didn't find anything. Lin Feng simply put away the jade carving for the time being, waiting to explore the secret of this treasure in the future. On this day, waves of violent fluctuations were actually emitted from the mountain and river ring. Lin Feng's divine sense invaded the mountain and river ring and immediately discovered that the treasure that was emitting the fluctuations was the golden box that he had obtained in the Stone State ruins. That golden box was very mysterious, and Lin Feng didn't know the origin of the golden box. Even the demon lord didn't know the origin of the golden box. The golden box was densely packed with runes. Although it was only the size of a palm, it was locked. Previously, Lin Feng tried to open the small lock on the golden box, but after trying many times, he didn't succeed. Later, Lin Feng put away the golden box. He didn't expect that the golden box would actually emit fluctuations at this time. Lin Feng was very surprised. He took out the golden box and carefully observed it. He immediately discovered that the densely packed runes on the golden box seemed to have a life of their own. The runes were actually swimming around the golden box. Moreover, they were freely combining. It was really strange. When Lin Feng reached out to touch the runes, his hand was pushed away by an invisible force. What kind of mutation will happen to this golden box? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He was very surprised and curious about the golden box's changes. He was looking forward to what would happen next. However, to Lin Feng's surprise, the golden box's fluctuations quickly disappeared. It returned to normal. What's going on? Lin Feng frowned. He had thought that the golden box would undergo some shocking changes. However, the reality disappointed Lin Feng. Lin Feng studied the golden box again, but he still couldn't find any clues. In the blink of an eye, the ancient starship Xianyuan had arrived at the outer region of the heavenly sage Great World. Looking out from the starry sky world, one could even see an incomparably huge world. That world, it was boundless, ancient, terrifying, mysterious, and ancient. That great world, it was the famous heavenly sage Great World. As the home of the myriad races, the heavenly sage Great World was one of the most lively places in the starry sky world. Although the heavenly sage Great World was in a state of chaos, however, there were still countless cultivators entering and leaving the heavenly sage Great World. Ancient starships flew over from all directions, heading towards the heavenly sage Great World. There were also many cultivators who didn't use the ancient starships. Instead, they relied on themselves to cross the starry sky world. Rumble. A loud sound shook the heavens. A huge ancient starship flew over, crushing the heavens. There was a flag hanging on the ancient starship. On the flag was an image of the gluttonous god demon bearing his fangs and brandishing his claws. Clearly, that ancient starship. It should be the ancient starship controlled by the gluttonous god demon. Many ancient starships saw the gluttonous god demon's ancient starship and hurriedly avoided it. The gluttonous god demon. Chapter 3574. Back then, the culinary god demons had caused a bloodbath in the starry sky world. Many factions had encircled the culinary god demons. However, the culinary god demons were simply too powerful. There was no way to eliminate them. Hence, the encirclement of the culinary god demons was left unsettled. These culinary god demons had all escaped from the forbidden god world. It seemed that when the 5 signs of decay appeared, the era was nearing its end. The forbidden god realm that imprisoned these terrifying beings also became more and more unstable. The fact that more and more terrifying creatures were escaping from the forbidden god world was a very obvious example. What are these culinary god demons doing in the heavenly sage Great World? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. The culinary god demons were incomparably evil. They didn't have much interaction with other factions. However, now that they had come to the heavenly sage Great World, people couldn't help but wonder what their goal was. The ancient starship that the culinary god demons were on quickly disappeared from sight. It was a very extraordinary ancient starry sky ship. Previously, Lin Feng had killed the culinary god demons and refined their origin into a culinary god fruit. This was because the culinary god fruit could produce emperor laws. Lin Feng's current battle prowess was related to the fact that he had refined many emperor laws. Now, Lin Feng was wondering if he should find a chance to kill a few culinary god demons. In the eyes of others, the culinary god demon was a heinous devil who could not be forgiven. But for Lin Feng, the divine culinary demon was a perfect tonic. Many factions began to discuss the culinary god demons. No cultivator dared to underestimate the culinary god demons. On this day, Hua Shishir came to Lin Feng's place again. Perhaps it was because she had just finished bathing. That was why her hair wasn't completely dry yet. She was as beautiful as ever. Lin Feng invited her in. We're about to reach the heavenly sage great world. After this farewell, I don't know when we'll meet again. Hua Shishir's voice was filled with reluctance. This woman was very good at stirring up others' emotions. After hearing Hua Shishir's words, Lin Feng actually felt somewhat reluctant. Hua Shishir was very passionate about this woman. Lin Feng knew why Hua Shishir had approached him. This kind of thing was too common in the world of cultivators. Lin Feng was already used to it. Fairy, how long will you stay in the heavenly sage great world? Lin Feng could not help but ask. I should be staying for a while, because our master, Fairy Yuanfa, will be here soon. Hua Shishir said. Is the expert you went to visit a very powerful person? Asked Yifutyan. Lin Feng asked. He's the leader of a sect, an emperor-level expert. To us, they are naturally lofty existences. But to young master, perhaps they are just ordinary people. Hua Shishir said. Although the heavenly sage great world had been embroiled in war all these years, it was still a holy land for cultivation. This place was vast and rich in resources for cultivation. There were many races, and many of them had been glorious in the past. Therefore, there were many orthodoxies and legacies left behind by experts in the great sage world. Emperor Lord-level experts were extremely rare in the age of chaos. Many great worlds combined might not even be able to produce an Emperor Lord-level expert. Originally, the heavenly sage great world had 5 Emperor Lord-level experts. This showed how extraordinary the heavenly sage great world was. Although the 5 Emperor Lord-level experts had fallen, it did not change the fact that the heavenly sage great world was a holy land for cultivation. Therefore, there were too many factions in the heavenly sage great world. Lin Feng guessed. Fairy Yuanfa might have come to the heavenly sage great world to seek refuge with an old friend. Then, she might want to cultivate in the heavenly sage great world. Lin Feng looked at Hua Shishir and said, the heavenly sage great world is indeed a holy land for cultivation. Cultivate well. You will definitely achieve great things in the future. Actually, I think cultivating is not the most important thing. The most important thing is to find someone you can entrust your life to. In my opinion, no matter how powerful a woman is, she still needs to find a home. Only such a life can be considered a perfect life. Hua Shishir said coquettishly. When she said this, her breathing seemed to have quickened. Lin Feng smiled and said, Fairy Yuanfa, you are quite open-minded. Everything will be up to fate. If fate comes, Fairy Yuanfa will definitely be able to find your ideal husband. Lin Feng knew Hua Shishir's intention to come to him. Originally, with Lin Feng's character, how could he refuse a peerless beauty like Hua Shishir who had taken the initiative to come to him? But when the matter came, Lin Feng suddenly realized that he seemed to be a little different from before. If it was before, Lin Feng might really accept Hua Shishir, because his impression of Hua Shishir was not bad. And this woman, Hua Shishir, was indeed of the highest quality. If he did not accept her, wouldn't it be easy for others? But now, Lin Feng seemed to have more considerations. It was very difficult for Lin Feng to be like before, where he had a good impression of the other party, and the other party was also beautiful, and then he would take her into his harem. Now, Lin Feng needed a feeling. This feeling might be a kind of spiritual connection, or a kind of fate. When he left, Hua Shishir looked at Lin Feng with some resentment. A pair of charming eyes were filled with grievances. If we are fated, maybe we can meet again in the heavenly sage great world. Lin Feng said. Hua Shishir was a very intelligent woman. After hearing Lin Feng's words, she understood the deeper meaning. She nodded and said, Then this servant will wait for the reunion with young master. Then, Hua Shishir bid farewell and left. And 3 days later, the ancient starship Xianyuan finally arrived at the periphery of the heavenly sage great world. Then, the ancient starship Xianyuan descended towards the heavenly sage great world. Finally, the ancient starship Xianyuan landed above a mountain forest. Lin Feng, Hua Shishir, and the others parted here. Seeing Lin Feng leave without any reluctance, Hua Shishir, Yang Lan felt a sense of loss in her heart. Shang Guanying and Shang Guanling, this pair of sisters, did not have much contact with Lin Feng, but Lin Feng, this extraordinary man, had left a deep impression on the sisters. They had even fantasized about what would happen if they were together with Lin Feng. But now, they were leaving. They were reluctant. "Let's go as well," Hua Shishir said. Together with the others, they left. Immeasurable Taoist looked at Lin Feng with a smile and said, leaving without any reluctance, "I wonder how many people's hearts will be hurt. Brother, this is called passing through a field of flowers without a single leaf touching me." Lin Feng said, "Forget it. Do you think I don't know you?" Immeasurable Taoist curled his lips and said. One day later, they saw an ancient city. This ancient city was called Metal Stone City. Chapter 3575. The golden box's reaction was enough to explain many things. Could there be something in Goldstone City that caused the golden box to react? If that was the case, he might be able to unravel the secret of the golden box with the help of the item in Goldstone City. Lin Feng felt that if the secret of the golden box could be unraveled, it would definitely be a shocking secret. When Lin Feng wanted to examine the golden box in detail, he discovered that the ripples had disappeared. Finally, the golden box became quiet. Lin Feng calmly asked, "What's the origin of Goldstone City?" "It's one of the 108 ancient cities in the Sacred War Alliance's territory. It's said that it can be traced back to before the primordial era. As for which era it can be traced back, it's not clear because it's too long ago. Currently, there are many factions of the Sacred War Alliance stationed here," Taoist Wuliang said. Lin Feng said, "That means we're still in the Sacred War Alliance's territory?" "That's right. It'll take a long time to leave the Sacred War Alliance's territory. The Great Sage World is too big, much bigger than the 9 Prefectures world. It'll take at least a few years to leave the Sacred War Alliance's territory," Taoist Wuliang said. Of course, the few years Taoist Wuliang was talking about was the time it would take to travel through a space-time wormhole. If they flew, who knew how long it would take to leave the Sacred War Alliance's territory? Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang entered Goldstone City. Goldstone City was bustling with people coming and going. The racial structure of the city was extremely complicated. There were myriad races, cosmic races, and foreign factions. Of course, there were also humans. It was just that the number of humans was relatively small. The ancient city was filled with an ancient aura. "There's 100 fragrances house here. It's really full of beauties. It's one of the most high-end brothels. How about we go there for a drink?" Taoist Wuliang said with a grin. This damn Taoist Wuliang was not a pedantic person. Eating meat, drinking wine, and teasing women. There was nothing this damn Taoist Wuliang wouldn't do. Lin Feng nodded and said, "All right, let's go to the 100 fragrances house." The two of them walked toward the 100 fragrances house. Not long after, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang arrived at the 100 fragrances house. This was a 7-story pavilion decorated with fresh flowers. From time to time, one could hear beautiful music coming from inside. Although the 100 fragrances house was a brothel, most of the women there sold their skills and not their bodies. Of course, if you have the ability to hook up with the woman inside, I'll give you a chance. At that time, he would naturally be able to get the beauty back, and he wouldn't have to spend a single cent. The prerequisite was that you had the ability to do so. Lin Feng and the Taoist walked towards the 100 fragrances pavilion. At this time, a cold voice came from behind. "You two lowly things, get out of the way and make way for our young master." After hearing this voice, Lin Feng and Immeasurable Taoist's expression sank. The other party was clearly targeting them. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang turned around and saw a dozen or so human cultivators carrying a golden divine carriage. On top of the golden divine chariot, there was a golden spiritual cat. This golden civet was about 1 meter long. Its body exuded a cold and terrifying aura. This dragon cat came from the golden sacred heavenly cat clan. This was an extremely terrifying faction. They were the royal family of the myriad races. Their talents were incomparably powerful, and very few people dared to provoke them. The one who reprimanded Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang was a cultivator standing beside them. This cultivator was in human form, but he was clearly not human. No one knew what race he was from. He was actually an emperor cultivator. What bad luck. I didn't look at the almanac before I left. Now I hear a dog barking beside me. Taoist Wu Liang curled his lips and said, "How dare you insult me?" The guard's face instantly became extremely gloomy. The golden saint celestial cat opened its eyes. Its eyes were golden in color, making it look extremely strange. Young master. After seeing the golden sacred heavenly cat open its eyes, the guard quickly bowed to the golden sacred heavenly cat. No need for formalities. The golden sacred heavenly cat said, "Thank you, young master." The guard stood up. The golden sacred heavenly cat looked at Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang, then said indifferently, "You have to look at the owner before beating a dog? Lowly thing. How dare you reprimand my guard? Did you eat a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? I'll give the two of you a chance to live. Break an arm each and get out of here. Don't let me see you again." The golden sacred heavenly cat obviously did not care about Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. It was full of contempt for the two of them. "Look, it's the 7th young master of the golden sacred heavenly cat clan, Jean Linya." The two human cultivators seemed to have a conflict with Jean Linya. They really did have a conflict. This is going to be a good show. Jean Linya is not a kind person. Even if the two human cultivators break their arms, I'm afraid they won't be able to escape. Jean Linya does like to tease others, especially the human race. At this moment, some of the cultivators who were watching the show began to discuss after seeing the conflict. Clearly, in the eyes of those cultivators, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were probably dead this time. "It's just a cat. How dare it boast shamelessly in front of us?" Lin Feng curled his lips and said. When Lin Feng's words were spread, all of a sudden, it was as if the surroundings had become completely silent. No one thought that Lin Feng would dare to say such words to Jean Linya. Did he think that he wasn't dying fast enough? The air. It was as if it had frozen. "Kid, do you know what you're talking about?" Jean Linya's voice was cold. There was a murderous intent in his eyes. Lin Feng said indifferently, "Of course I know what I'm talking about. Lowly things. Normally, you humans are only fit to be my palanquin. But you're so reckless in front of me. Have you thought about how you're going to die?" Jean Linya's voice was filled with murderous intent. "You think you can do it? You're just a cat and you want to kill me? Are you daydreaming?" Lin Feng couldn't help but grin. The golden sacred heavenly cat clan that Jean Linya belonged to was a very noble clan. But now, from Lin Feng's words, Jean Linya seemed to be an animal that hadn't developed a spiritual sense. This made Jean Linya's killing intent monstrous. "Reckless thing, I have a lot of slaves, and most of them are human cultivators. As a lowly human cultivator, you dare to be so presumptuous in front of me. Do you know that you have committed a capital crime?" Chapter 3576. The times have really changed. Since when can a cat roar at a person? Lin Feng couldn't help but curl his lips. In front of him, Jean Linya of the Golden Holy Heavenly Cat Clan really seemed to be an ordinary cat. It was a pet that many women liked to keep. Many people felt that their heads couldn't seem to wrap around it. No one knew why Lin Feng would mock Jean Linya like this. Now, many cultivators felt that something was wrong. Naturally, no one was a fool after cultivating to their current realm. Those two human cultivators naturally couldn't be fools. However, those two human cultivators were humiliating Jean Linya. What did this mean? They weren't afraid of Jean Linya? Could it be that they had some special means? This was what some cultivators thought. Of course, Most cultivators still thought that Lin Feng was courting death. There was absolutely no good ending for humiliating Jean Linya like this. There was only a path to death. At this moment, Taoist Wu Liang said, "Brother, I suddenly thought of a saying." "What saying?" Lin Feng asked curiously. "Women don't keep dogs. Men don't keep cats." Taoist Wu Liang grinned. "Oh? What do you mean?" Lin Feng asked in confusion. "You know, some of the bigger dogs are quite fierce." Taoist Wu Liang smiled very cheekily. Many people couldn't help but roll their eyes. Although Taoist Wu Liang didn't say it very clearly, everyone understood what this guy wanted to say. Many people couldn't help but curse Taoist Wu Liang secretly. This guy was simply the scum of the Taoist priests. It was really an insult to this incomparably sacred profession. "What do you mean by the second half of the sentence?" Lin Feng continued to ask. Taoist Wu Liang chuckled and said, "Men aren't very honest when they sleep. Who knows when they will become a pillar supporting the sky? A cat saw it. You should know what terrible consequences will happen, right?" Many people couldn't help but shiver, and their crotch couldn't help but feel a chill. No matter what kind of cat it was more active. Moreover, cats were more active animals at night. Their night vision was strong. Therefore, when they saw something that could move, they were likely to bite it. Lin Feng asked, "Are you saying that felines have a special liking for that, what?" "Pooh." After hearing Lin Feng's words, many people burst out laughing. The surrounding cultivators could tell what was going on. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang sang the same tune. Obviously, he was mocking Jean Linya. This was because although Jean Linya's golden holy heavenly cat clan was extremely noble, their clan had evolved from felines. "You are courting death. Courting death. You two are courting death. Kill them all." Jean Linya was already furious and full of killing intent. Being humiliated by Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist had completely infuriated him. Therefore, he directly gave the order to kill Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. "Yes, young master. Leave these two lowly humans to your subordinates. This subordinate will definitely satisfy you," the guard said. Next, the guard stepped forward, and a terrifying aura enveloped Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. He struck out with his palm and directly attacked Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. He actually wanted to fight against two alone. Taoist Wu Liang curled his lips and said, "Brother, I'll deal with this trash. Just watch the show from the side." Lin Feng was happy to be idle, so he did not make a move. Hearing Taoist Wu Liang call him trash, the guard's face instantly turned gloomy and his killing intent was awe-inspiring. Although he was only a Divine Lord level cultivator. However, Divine Lord level, that was still a great emperor. When a great emperor made a move, the momentum was naturally extremely shocking. This Divine Lord level cultivator's cultivation was incomparably terrifying. With a palm strike, it could destroy heaven and earth. The surrounding cultivators who were watching the show all exclaimed. Even in the vast heavenly sage great world, a great emperor-level cultivator was in existence that stood at the peak. It was rare to see such an expert. Dog-beating stick technique. Taoist Wu Liang couldn't help but shout. Swoosh! With a flash of light, a big stick as thick as an arm appeared in his hand. Then, he held the big stick with both hands. With a swing of the stick, he threw it out. This powerful strike directly collided with the guard, and the guard's arm was directly smashed apart. Then, clang, a sound was heard. That powerful stick directly smashed into the guard's body, sending him flying. Wah! The guard couldn't help but spit out a large mouthful of blood, and his face was as pale as paper. The sound of bones cracking could be heard continuously. After suffering Taoist Wu Liang's attack, who knew how many bones in his body were broken? With a plop, the guard fell to the ground and his body trembled violently. He wailed in pain. It was incomparably miserable. Seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. Taoist Wu Liang was a guy who liked to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger, so this guy suppressed his cultivation to the early stage of the quasi-emperor realm. Moreover, Taoist Wu Liang's cultivation technique was very mysterious. Ordinary cultivators couldn't see Taoist Wu Liang's true realm at all. Those cultivators would think that Taoist Wu Liang was really a cultivator of this realm. The only cultivators who could peek into the true realm of the immeasurable Taoist were perhaps those truly unparalleled experts. Anyone who saw Taoist Wu Liang, a cultivator of the early stage of the quasi-emperor realm, would probably not take him seriously. But in fact, Taoist Wu Liang was not a cultivator of this realm. This damn Taoist Wu Liang's methods were extremely terrifying. Lin Feng didn't know how terrifying Taoist Wu Liang was. The only thing he knew was that Taoist Wu Liang's cultivation was unfathomable. That Taoist Wu Liang should have hidden his cultivation, right? No wonder he didn't take Jean Linya seriously. Those two human cultivators are definitely not simple. At this moment, a cultivator said, "What's the use of not being simple, unless their cultivation can reach the Emperor realm?" Although Jean Linya is only a God Emperor realm cultivator, Jean Linya has already defeated more than a dozen Emperor realm experts. His realm is not high, but he can challenge people 2 realms above him. This is the most terrifying part. At this moment, a cultivator said, "That's right. Jean Linya is indeed terrifying. To be able to defeat opponents 2 realms above him, he can be called a peerless genius." Another person said, extremely praising Jean Linya's talent, "No wonder you dared to provoke this young master. So you have some cultivation. It seems a pity to kill you. Capturing the 2 of you and making you carry the palanquin for this young master is a good choice." Jean Linya walked step by step towards Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang, his voice indifferent. Chapter 3577. A cat dares to boast shamelessly? What a joke. Believe it or not, I'll smash you into meat paste with a stick. Taoist Wu Liang shook the stick in his hand. That stick was not an ordinary object. It was made of an unknown divine wood and was extremely powerful. Otherwise, it would not have been able to beat that Emperor God cultivator half to death. Jean Linya's expression was cold. Whoosh! It moved and disappeared in an instant. When it reappeared, it was already in front of Taoist Wu Liang. Jean Linya's speed was simply too fast. It was so fast that Taoist Wu Liang could not react to it. What a fast speed! Immediately, many onlookers exclaimed. They could not help but be shocked by Jean Linya's speed. The Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan is known for their speed, and their attacks are fierce and as fast as lightning. They can almost teleport in a small area. Many people have not even reacted yet, and it is very likely that they have already been killed by the cultivators of this clan. At this moment, a cultivator said. The cultivator's explanation moved many of the people around him, because the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan's methods were simply too terrifying. And at this moment, Jin Linya, who had come to Taoist Wu Liang's side, launched an attack on Taoist Wu Liang with its sharp claws. There was even a claw light in the void. Jin Linya's speed was simply too fast. It was so fast that it was unbelievable. Facing Jin Linya's terrifying attack, Taoist Wu Liang could not help but be shocked. Fortunately, Taoist Wu Liang's methods were also extremely extraordinary, so he quickly retreated and dodged Jin Linya's claw. However, Jin Linya's speed was simply too fast. Taoist Wu Liang had not yet regained his footing. Jin Linya attacked again. Those sharp claws flickered with a cold light and directly grabbed at Taoist Wu Liang's neck. This time, Taoist Wu Liang could not avoid Jin Linya's menacing claw. As the saying goes, speed is the only thing that is invincible in the world. This sentence was verified at this moment. Jin Linya did not show too much power. It was obviously restraining its strength. It had only displayed its lightning-fast speed, but immeasurable Taoist was already unable to withstand it. It wasn't that the immeasurable Taoist wasn't strong enough. Instead, it was suppressed by Jin Linya in a hurry. Lin Feng knew just how frightening immeasurable Taoist's methods were. If he could put some distance between them, immeasurable Taoist would not even need to do anything himself. He could just throw all sorts of treasures at them. Even if he couldn't kill Jin Linya, he could at least make Jin Linya half dead. Lin Feng firmly believed in this point. Help! Taoist Wu Liang wailed. Jin Linya's terrifying attack was about to grab Taoist Wu Liang's neck. At this moment, a beam of cold light suddenly erupted. He quickly slashed at Jin Linya. Jin Linya's expression suddenly changed. He had no choice but to abandon the immeasurable Taoist and quickly dodged the terrifying cold light that was slashing towards him. Jean Linia dodged the terrifying cold light by a hair's breadth. Afterward, he stood in the void and looked at Lin Feng with a gloomy expression. Now scram as far as you can, and I'll spare your life. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead, Lin Feng said with a sneer. Arrogant. Lin Feng's words were too arrogant. However, no one thought that Lin Feng's words were arrogant, because everyone saw that Lin Feng actually forced Jean Linia to retreat. Brat, I'm going to kill you. Now Jean Linia was completely enraged. It had a high and mighty personality to begin with, and there was a reason why Jean Linia looked down on the human race the most. It was said that, in the past, one of Jean Linia's ancestors had a conflict with a human powerhouse and was eventually killed by the human powerhouse. Since then, the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan completely hated the human race. If there was a chance, he would ruthlessly humiliate Lin Feng. Most of Jean Linia's slaves were humans. Why was that? Because Jean Linia felt that controlling the human race like this and making them his slaves would make him feel quite refreshed. This was a kind of spiritual satisfaction. But now, Jean Linia was ridiculed, mocked, and humiliated by the human cultivators he looked down on the most. He was even forced to retreat. For Jean Linia, he couldn't accept all of this at all. It was simply a great humiliation. It made Jean Linia go crazy with hatred. Now Jean Linia only had one thought. That was to kill Lin Feng. Lin Feng's corpse was torn to shreds. Only then could he vent the hatred in his heart. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, rays of light flickered between heaven and earth. In the void, nameless cultivators appeared one after another. Those nameless cultivators, they were all Jean Linia. Hundreds of Jean Linia appeared in the void. What kind of divine ability is this? Many people looked at the hundreds of Jean Linia in the air in shock. They felt it. Those hundreds of Jean Linia, they were all real. Everyone couldn't help but reveal an incredulous expression on their faces. This divine ability that Jean Linia used was really extraordinary. It should be the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan's Holy Golden Body technique, right? Rumor has it that if this divine ability is cultivated to the peak, it can create tens of thousands of clones, making it impossible to determine which one is real. At this moment, someone said, tens of thousands of clones? What a terrifying divine ability. Although Jean Linia only created hundreds of clones, it's already terrifying enough. Someone else said, Kid, die. Hundreds of Jean Linia spoke at the same time. Their voices were cold and filled with endless killing intent. Then, the Jean Linia quickly rushed towards Lin Feng. The aura emitted from each Jean Linia's body made people's hair stand on end. Hundreds of Jean Linia attacked Lin Feng together with an astonishing momentum. I'm afraid that Kid is dead for sure. Many people couldn't help but exclaim. Jean Linia's means were really terrifying. It was as if a god was a killer. Such a terrifying divine ability was displayed. No one thought that Lin Feng could resist Jean Linia's attack. In many people's opinion, Lin Feng was definitely going to die. Just as the hundreds of Jean Linia were about to drown Lin Feng. At this moment, everyone saw. Lin Feng stepped out. Then, the entire space seemed to have frozen. Hundreds of Jean Linia were all frozen in space. The Jean Linia collapsed one by one. Those were not the real Jean Linia, but Jean Linia's clones. In the blink of an eye, the hundreds of clones all collapsed, leaving only Jean Linia's original body. Chapter 3578. Jean Linia wanted to struggle, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break free. Lin Feng, who appeared in front of him, was like an undefeatable god. He was so powerful that it was suffocating. Everyone's face was filled with shock, because Lin Feng was too terrifying. The combat power he displayed was simply invincible. Jean Linia was an existence that could contend with an Imperial Emperor-level powerhouse. In front of Lin Feng, he didn't even have the strength to fight back. Many people were guessing Lin Feng's realm. What realm was he in to be able to defeat such a powerful Jean Linia? And he defeated Jean Linia in a crushing manner? Think about it. It all made people's hair stand on end. You. Jean Linia looked at Lin Feng, who was walking towards him step by step, in horror. He didn't expect Lin Feng to be so powerful. The combat power that Lin Feng displayed made Jean Linia feel a deep sense of despair. At the same time, it also made Jean Linia feel extremely aggrieved. He was such a proud person. In his eyes, human cultivators had a lowly bloodline and were only fit to carry his palanquin. But now, Jean Linia was defeated by the human cultivator that he looked down on the most. And it was a crushing defeat. This was a huge blow to Jean Linia. Pitifully weak. A piece of trash like you dares to jump in front of me? I really don't know who gave you the courage. Lin Feng looked at Jean Linia with contempt. But now, no one felt that Lin Feng's words were arrogant anymore. Because it was a waste. He was too powerful. When a cultivator's cultivation base was strong enough, no matter what he said, others would think that he was right. Just like Lin Feng now. I am the 7th young master of the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan. My clan is the royal family of the myriad clans. You'd better let me go. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. Jean Linia said with a gloomy expression. After thinking of the behemoth behind him, he became full of confidence again. The strength of the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat race was incomparably terrifying. The Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan was still very powerful. Perhaps this was where Jean Linia's confidence came from. With such a huge force backing him, and this was the Heavenly Sage Great World. Jean Linia believed that Lin Feng knew how to choose. Now, Jean Linia's killing intent towards Lin Feng was like a torrential river. Therefore, it would never let Lin Feng go. Jean Linia secretly swore in his heart, as long as he could get out of trouble, he would definitely call on the experts of his clan to kill Lin Feng. Will the human cultivator release Jean Linia? The foundation of the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan is very terrifying. That kid is only a human cultivator, and it's very likely that he's a passerby from the extraterritorial starry world. No matter how strong his cultivation is, he's probably nothing in front of the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan. Therefore, I think it's best for that kid to let Jean Linia go before the two sides reach the point of irreconcilable hatred. Jean Linia is ruthless and hates humans the most. If he's released, Jean Linia will definitely not let it go. But if he doesn't release him, it'll be even more troublesome. Is he going to kill Jean Linia? When the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan gets angry, does that kid still want to leave the Heavenly Sage Great World alive? The surrounding cultivators who were watching the show immediately began to discuss. They were all guessing what Lin Feng would do. Release Jean Linia? Or kill Jean Linia? Lin Feng said with a sneer, "It's rare for a prisoner to be as arrogant as you. Killing you directly would be too easy for you." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng struck out with his palm. Bang! The terrifying palm slammed into Jean Linia's dantian. Jean Linia was sent flying by the slap. Arg! In midair, he spat out a mouthful of blood. My dantian! My dantian! Jean Linia screamed. His dantian had been crippled by Lin Feng. Now, he had become a cripple. Everybody was astonished. Lin Feng had crippled Jean Linia's cultivation. Jean Linia was originally a high and mighty figure, but now that his dantian had been crippled, he immediately fell from the clouds to the bottom of the cliff. It was simply a fate worse than death. Jean Linia is completely finished. Many cultivators couldn't help but take a deep breath. Although he's not a ferocious dragon, this is the Heavenly Sage Great World. The Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan is very powerful in the Heavenly Sage Great World. There's also a saying that a strong dragon can't suppress a snake in its old haunts. This kid has crippled Jean Linia. The experts of the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan will soon move to deal with him. Yes, the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan will definitely not let this go. After seeing Jean Linia being crippled, the surrounding cultivators exclaimed one after another. Jean Linia's face was pale. His face was full of despair. He knew clearly, after he became a cripple, what kind of status would he have in the clan? At that time, he might even be inferior to a servant. Big clans were cruel to begin with. Little bastard, I won't rest until I'm dead. Our Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan. We will definitely not let you off. Jean Linia cursed viciously. He looked at Lin Feng as if he wanted to eat Lin Feng's flesh and drink Lin Feng's blood. Immeasurable heavenly sovereign, you're just a cripple. How dare you talk nonsense here? Get lost as far as you can. Immeasurable Taoist sneered. Then, he kicked at Jean Linia. A bang was heard. Suddenly, Jean Linia was sent flying by Immeasurable Taoist. Immediately, Lin Feng and Immeasurable Taoist turned around and entered the 100 Fragrances house. These two people crippled Jean Linia and still swaggered into the 100 Fragrances house. Don't they care about the upcoming revenge of the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan? Someone said in astonishment. He couldn't believe his eyes. Many people smiled bitterly. Lin Feng and Immeasurable Taoist's actions were indeed beyond everyone's expectations. The conflict outside was so intense that it naturally attracted the attention of many people. Therefore, when Lin Feng and Immeasurable Taoist entered the 100 Fragrances house, all eyes were on the two of them. A beautiful woman came to greet Lin Feng and Immeasurable Taoist. Immeasurable Taoist shouted, "Give us the best wine, the best delicacies, and the most beautiful women. We're going to party to our heart's content today." Many people couldn't help but roll their eyes when they heard Immeasurable Taoist's words. Was this guy really a Taoist? Could he be an imposter? In many people's impression, Taoists were sage-like. However, Immeasurable Taoist had an extremely wretched expression. He didn't look like a Taoist at all. Chapter 3579. The beautiful woman smiled and said, "This young master and this Taoist master, please follow me upstairs. There are private rooms upstairs." Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang nodded. Then, they followed the beautiful woman upstairs. The three of them arrived at a VIP room on the 5th floor. Then, beautiful maidservants entered the private room one after another, carrying fine wine and dishes. They placed the wine and dishes on the table in front of Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang. Then, a singer, a dancer, and a musician entered the room. These were all courtesans. They sold their skills, not their bodies. Whether it was their figure or their figure, they could be considered top-notch beauties. Some played the zither, some played the flute. Someone was singing a beautiful song. There were also people who danced gracefully. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang chatted while admiring the beautiful dancers dancing in the middle of the pavilion. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, bang, bang, bang. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Then, a very pleasant voice sounded. This voice was clear and melodious. It was very ethereal, like pearls falling on a jade plate. This voice said, "This servant, Nalan Lianyu, has taken the liberty to pay a visit. I wonder if I can come in?" He saw a woman in white standing outside the box. This woman in white was tall, with creamy skin and peach blossom eyes. She had a small face the size of a palm. Her face could be described as exquisite and beautiful, and her body emitted an ethereal aura. It was like an elf that had fallen from the 9 heavens immortal world to the mortal world. "Please come in." Lin Feng's voice came from the room. Then, this woman who called herself Nalan Lianyu pushed the door and entered. When the courtesans saw this woman, they all bowed to her. Lin Feng guessed that this woman should be from the 100 Fragrances house, and her status was extremely high. Lianyu greets the young master and Taoist master. Nalan Lianyu bowed to Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang. When Lin Feng saw Nalan Lianyu, he couldn't help but be stunned by this woman. This woman's temperament was really outstanding, coupled with that peerless appearance. It was unforgettable. Nalan Lianyu? One of the 10 great beauties of heavenly sage great world, Nalan Lianyu? Taoist Wu Yang clicked his tongue in amazement as he sized up this white-clothed woman. This damn Taoist had stayed in the heavenly sage great world for so many years. Clearly, he already had a good understanding of the heavenly sage great world. Even the 10 great beauties of the heavenly sage great world seemed to have been carefully investigated. Otherwise, how could he know that this woman was one of the 10 great beauties of the heavenly sage great world just by hearing her name? Of course, Lin Feng was not surprised that Nalan Lianyu could be ranked among the top 10 beauties of the heavenly sage great world. In this world, There were many beautiful women. Some women's looks might not be much worse than Nalan Lianyu's. However, the competition between these top-quality beauties could no longer be judged by their looks alone. It was because they were all extremely beautiful and moving. Therefore, the competition between these top-quality beauties would depend on their own talent, cultivation, and the power behind them. Lin Feng didn't know if the power behind Nalan Lianyu was strong or not, nor did he know Nalan Lianyu's cultivation or talent. However, he had to admit that Nalan Lianyu's temperament was too good. That kind of ethereal, quiet, and otherworldly temperament. It gave people a very comfortable feeling. Master Taoist is too kind. This is just a ranking made by bored people. Please don't take it seriously, Nalan Lianyu said. Taoist Wu Liang smiled and said, Fairy is too modest, said Lin Feng. Please have a seat, celestial being. Thank you, young master. Nalan Lianyu smiled and stood up. She then sat at the table below Lin Feng. I haven't asked for the names of young master and this Taoist. Nalan Lianyu said, Lin Feng, this is my good friend, Taoist Wu Liang. Lin Feng? Nalan Lianyu was shocked when she heard this name. As for Taoist Wu Liang's Taoist name, Nalan Lianyu had never heard of it. Taoist Wu Liang was the kind of person who pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. Not many people knew of his Taoist name. As for his name, Lin Feng knew that Nalan Lianyu must have heard of it. I didn't expect young master to come to the heavenly sage great world, Nalan Lianyu said. The world is so big. Naturally, I have to walk around and see more. Lin Feng said with a smile. Young master, you crippled Jean Linya. The Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat Clan is a force that seeks revenge for the smallest grievance. They will definitely send experts to deal with you. If young master needs help, Lianyu is willing to provide it. Nalan Lianyu said with a smile. This woman, she seemed to be here to express goodwill. Thank you, Fairy, Lin Feng said. Young master is too polite. Then, Lianyu will no longer disturb young master and Taoist. Nalan Lianyu stood up and said. She then left the room where Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were. Said Lin Feng, dismissing the prostitutes. He looked at Taoist Wu Liang and asked, What is the origin of this Nalan Lianyu? I'm not sure. This Nalan Lianyu has always been very mysterious. She is the only one among the top 10 beauties of the heavenly sage great world. However, judging from the courtesan's behavior, they seem to know Nalan Lianyu. Furthermore, they are very respectful towards her. It seems that Nalan Lianyu is related to the 100 Fragrances house. There should be more than 100 Fragrances house, right? Lin Feng said. Taoist Wu Liang nodded. That's right. There are many 100 Fragrances houses. It is said that they belong to a mysterious force. However, I don't know what kind of force they are. Nalan Lianyu should be a member of that force. Lin Feng said. That's right. It seems that the heavenly sage great world is more interesting than I thought. Dong 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 dong. Right at this moment, the sound of a great bell suddenly rang out between the heavens and the earth. Many people were alarmed. What's going on? A large number of cultivators rushed out to the streets and looked at each other. Dong 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 dong. At this moment, the sound of a huge bell rang out once again. The sound came from the northwest of Metalstone City. It's coming from the Forest of Destiny. A cultivator said. Could the rumors be true? In the past, the Master of Destiny died there. It is said that the Master of Destiny's supreme treasure, the immortal Bell of Destiny, is also in the Forest of Destiny. It is waiting for the fated person to come and inherit the supreme inheritance left behind by the Master of Destiny. A cultivator said. What? There is such a rumor? Chapter 3580. The Master of Destiny was definitely an extremely terrifying existence. It was rumored that this existence was the embodiment of destiny. It was this terrifying existence who had brought the Tao of Destiny to greater heights. It was also this terrifying existence. With the Tao of Destiny as the foundation, he had created many unimaginable divine abilities. Every single divine ability could be said to be peerlessly terrifying, shocking the hearts of people. In the history of the New Age, this Master of Destiny was a famous expert. Therefore, When the news of the Master of Destiny's legacy spread, many people were shocked. Let's go. Let's go to the Forest of Destiny to take a look. We might be able to gain something. Many cultivators soared into the sky and flew towards the Forest of Destiny. They wanted to find opportunities in the Forest of Destiny. Master of Destiny? Doesn't this person also have the cultivation method of the Great Destiny technique? Lin Feng couldn't help but ponder. Lin Feng hadn't completely cultivated the Great Destiny technique. This was because the Great Destiny technique was divided into 3 parts. Lin Feng had only obtained the first part. Lin Feng hadn't obtained the second and third parts. Of course, even if he had only obtained a part, the Great Destiny technique was already terrifying enough. This second-ranked 3000 Great Dao had played an important role in reversing the situation in several of Lin Feng's life and death battles. Destiny and destiny only differed by one word. They were both based on the word destiny. From this, it could be seen just how terrifying and powerful was this divine ability. Moreover, Lin Feng felt that destiny and destiny were like the 2 extremes of the yin and yang cycle. Destiny. It represented the destined trajectory of all living things. And destiny. It represented the method to change the trajectory of one's life. Therefore, destiny and destiny were inseparable. The Great Destiny technique was hard to find. Wasn't it the same for the Great Destiny technique? But now, when Lin Feng heard about the Master of Fate, he had the feeling that maybe he would be able to obtain the complete Great Fate technique. If he could obtain the complete Great Destiny technique, for Lin Feng, it would definitely be a great help. Taoist Wuliang said, I've heard rumors about the Master of Destiny, but I didn't expect the rumors to be true. Lin Feng said, we can wait a little longer. Even if the orthodoxy of the Master of Destiny is really in the Forest of Destiny, it won't appear so easily. Taoist Wu Liang nodded. Clearly, he agreed with Lin Feng's words. Next, the 2 of them headed to the bookstore to buy some books. Lin Feng wanted to flip through the book and learn more about the origins of the Forest of Destiny. After some research, Lin Feng found out that the original name of the Forest of Destiny was the Heavenly Pulse Forest. Later on, no one knew when. Then, the news spread that the Master of Destiny had perished there. The Heavenly Pulse Forest was also renamed as the Forest of Destiny. As time passed, very few people in the future knew the origin of the name Forest of Destiny. Very few people had heard of the Master of Destiny. Until this time, when the immortal bell of destiny shook the world. It shocked the world. Everyone began to understand the origins of the Forest of Destiny again, as well as the various legends. The news of the Forest of Destiny spread quickly as if it had grown wings, so a large number of cultivators gathered. Even experts from the Immortal Alliance and the Demon Alliance, which were not part of the Sacred War Alliance, came. The orthodoxy of the Master of Destiny was enough to make countless people go crazy. The Immortal Alliance and the Sacred War Alliance, which were originally at war, temporarily stopped fighting because of this matter. Many experts came to spy on the Master of Destiny's orthodoxy, but how could it be so easy to obtain the Master of Destiny's orthodoxy? That's right. The Master of Destiny's orthodoxy should be obtained by the fated person. No matter how strong those major forces are, it would be difficult for them to snatch the orthodoxy from the fated person. Many cultivators were discussing the Master of Destiny's orthodoxy. On this day, news spread that a young cultivator who called himself the Master of Destiny had appeared in the Heavenly Sage Great World. The Master of Destiny's orthodoxy was about to appear. Now, a Master of Destiny had suddenly appeared. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Many people couldn't help but mutter in their hearts. Could it be that this Master of Destiny was the son of the Master of Destiny? However, the Taoist scriptures didn't seem to record this matter. After Lin Feng heard about the Master of Destiny, he couldn't help but frown slightly. Back then, Lin Feng had said that he was the Master of Destiny. Because he cultivated the Great Destiny technique, it didn't seem inappropriate to call himself the Master of Destiny. What was the situation with this Master of Destiny who had appeared now? Could he really be the descendant of the Master of Destiny? Many people were looking for the whereabouts of the Master of Destiny, including many major forces. Those forces wanted to see who this Master of Destiny was. Was he really related to the Master of Destiny? If that was true, When the time came, perhaps they could use the Master of Destiny to find the Master of Destiny's orthodoxy. Many of the forces had a pretty good plan. However, after searching for a long time, they couldn't find the so-called Master of Destiny. Therefore, many people felt that the news about the Master of Destiny was deliberately released by someone as a smokescreen. This kind of thing was relatively common in the world of cultivators. During this period of time, the cultivators of the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat race did not find trouble with Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang. The two of them guessed. Now that the Golden Sacred Heavenly Cat race's attention was focused on the inheritance of the Master of Destiny, they did not have time to pay attention to the two of them. In the depths of the Forest of Destiny, loud sounds like that of a bell could be heard from time to time. However, it was a terrifying place. There were 5 great death zones in the Great Sage World. One of the death zones was called the Swamp of Destiny. It was that area. That was also the rumored place where the Master of Destiny fell. That is definitely a terrifying forbidden area. Several groups of cultivators entered, but they all died inside. A cultivator said with lingering fear. That was a cultivator who had just returned from the outer area of the Swamp of Destiny. He knew what had happened inside. Even if they didn't come out after entering, it doesn't mean that they died inside, right? They might have obtained a lot of opportunities and are digesting them inside. A cultivator said. That cultivator said, those people lit their primordial spirit lamps before they entered. But those people's primordial spirit lamps, they were all extinguished. Hearing that, many people sucked in a breath of cold air. The extinguishing of the primordial spirit lamps meant that all the cultivators who entered the Swamp of Destiny had died inside. Did no one come out alive? Someone asked. No one came out. The Swamp of Destiny is simply a mystery. That cultivator continued. Then, he lowered his voice and said, but to be honest, it's not like there's no news about the Swamp of Destiny. What do you mean? Everyone was puzzled. That cultivator said, I heard that someone captured the last spiritual force fluctuation of a cultivator before he died. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.